Hey, everybody.
Hey, Deb. You're muted.
Yeah, I wasn't saying anything.
Oh. You said hi. I went to say hi back, and I was like, "You all set? The new chair?"
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It's good.
It'll be great.
I'm looking forward to a new season. So,
It'll be great.
oh, thank you. Thank you for that vote of confidence. My cat is feeling under the weather tonight.
Oh no,
He's been sick all day, so
poor thing. Did she
keeping an
eat
eye on
something
him.
or?
No, he's not eating. He's been just laying around all day, not eating. So we'll probably end up taking him to the vet either tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a weird. That's why everybody switched over to that pretty cat litter. You think might have a urinary tract infection because they stop eating like that and get like lay around.
Yeah, I have no idea. It could be all sorts of things, I suppose. Yeah. Okay, good.
Oh, we have to admit people?
Yeah, I don't see any people
thought
to
maybe-
admit. Should I be seeing people?
Well,
Karen? You're
I'm still the
Can you make me the
oh, she's still the
co-host?
host. She's still the host.
Maybe she's
permission to admit folks from the waiting room.
okay.
Yeah, the co-host can do it too.
Yeah, I don't think we have a co-host.
And I don't see anything that I could
I can
do.
do it if you want. I can admit people if you want. Mary
Are you
Ellen,
able? Are you
I
able
haven't,
to?
No,
I haven't
you can
assigned
make me a
anyone host
co-host. I
yet.
can admit people in.
No, you can only
No,
have
we can
one
handle it.
host. Yeah, you can only have one host and then you can make the other co-host. You can do all the same stuff.
Ah, there
Yeah,
we
I'm
go.
doing it now. I didn't do it before.
All right, we've
So I'll
got,
do it right now and
we've
you
got
guys
Rob.
will be co-hosts.
So Karen, we've got Rob for ENS.
Where's Rob? I don't see. Oh,
He just
too many
joined.
people here. Okay. Okay, so we're done.
Yeah, I got Ed Green.
We're not
Hey, Ed.
expecting anybody else here.
Hey, Deb.
Good to see you.
Hi,
I'm
Ed.
waiting for just David Gilman and Georgia, and then everybody will be here. Margaret's here.
Hey, Mark.
There's
Oh my gosh,
Michael.
We have 53 people here. Oh, thank you. That's a good idea.
Hi, everybody. Maria from the Comptroller's office is here. Hope everyone's doing well.
Hi, Marietta.
Hi,
Karen.
Maria.
Hi.
Deborah, are you practicing raising your hand, or do you have a question?
No, I wanted to put a question that my husband has in the chat. He can't be here, but there's no chat, right?
There is no chat. Is this a question for the Deegan discussion?
Yeah, I
Um,
can email it to somebody or whatever.
Or you,
Or we could-
well, we'll be beginning
can just
in
say
just a
it.
minute. You can just say it
Yeah.
once we have the public comment in just a few minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And okay, so I think I'm gonna get started. We're only missing, so we're missing 2 people.
Georgia just came in.
Georgia just came in. Oh, wonderful. And there's David. Wonderful. You just need to start closing the door and then let the last folks show up.
Nice picture, David.
Well, I think we'll begin. Karen, are you ready to begin?
I'm ready.
All right, wonderful. Kira, are you?
want me to start? Oh, you got-
I'll start. Kira, do you have any last words
Okay.
before we get going?
No, have a great meeting.
Thank you so much. Thank you for helping us get started.
Of course.
So I would like to call the meeting to order, and I want to just thank everyone for coming out this evening. I have a few housekeeping items that will hopefully make it just easier to understand what's going on for everybody. So as a committee board, we loosely follow Robert's Rules of Order as a committee. So we ask that if you would like to speak, that you raise your hand, and either Karen or I will call on you. Let's see. If we have a lot of people who would like to speak when we open up to the hearing, you may only get to speak once. So just when you want to keep that in mind, that you're going to want to make it count. If you're not speaking, we ask that you keep yourself on mute, just so that the background noise doesn't interrupt other people who are speaking. For folks on the phones, *6 will allow you to mute and unmute, and *9 will allow you to raise your hand or lower your hand. And then I will generally call on people in the order that they raise their hands. So if you're on the phones, you won't be able to see the order, but know that I should be able to see you in the order that you raised your hand, okay? And then after the hearing, we will also, I know we have some folks who are on the call who are residents of 2727 Palisade Avenue, regarding the flooding that they experienced in their lobby. And so Lou, I think I see you there. I have the video, so I will call on you when we're finished discussing the Deegan, and then I will start the video as you begin to present, and that'll be kind of the order there. So once we're done with discussing the 2727 Palisade Avenue issue, then we'll move on to the Environment and Sanitation agenda, and then we'll move on to the Traffic and Transportation Committee agenda. This is a joint monthly meeting of both Traffic and Transportation and Environment and Sanitation. I am the chair of Traffic and Transportation Committee. My name is Deb Travis. Bob Fanuzzi is the chair of the Environment and Sanitation Committee, but he was unable to join us this evening due to a family emergency. And so Karen Argenti will be leading that discussion when we get to their agenda, and will be certainly helping me out as we get going during the hearing. So I'm going to start by taking attendance for my committee, just to confirm. Ed Green, are you here?
I'm here. You're a natural, Deb.
Thank you for the vote of confidence. Margaret Donato, I know I've got you. David Gelman.
Present.
Thank you. Georgia Santiago.
Present.
Wonderful, thank you. And Mary Ellen Gibbs, I know you're here.
I am here.
Karen, do you need to take attendance?
Yeah, I'll take attendance. Me, Rob Spolter, and Deb Travis. I think
Wonderful.
we're good.
We're good. So is there anybody representing an elected official or the official themselves that's on the call?
Hi, everybody. This is Marianne de la Cruz from the New York City Comptroller's Office, the Bronx Borough Director.
Okay,
Hey, Deb.
thank you, Maria.
It's
Welcome.
Frederick from Jeff Denowitz's office too.
Hi, Frederick, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank
Welcome.
you.
And
Welcome.
Enzo from Councilmember Denowitz's office.
And is that Enzo? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Lorenzo, Enzo, both.
Okay, great. Great, thank you. Anybody else? And any agencies on the call today?
Hi, my name is John Wong. I represent New York State Department of Transportation.
Oh, wonderful. It's great to have you on the call. I very much appreciate it.
Also, it's Effie Artisoni from DEP Community Affairs.
Wonderful. Thank you, Effie. It's great to see you.
Likewise.
Effie, yours is a name I have heard many times, but we have not met. I'm Stephanie Ehrlich, and I'm the Park Administrator for Van Cortlandt Park.
Yes, yes. How are you? I think I've
Good, hi.
had a couple of meetings, actually. Yeah. Nice to meet you.
I believe our council member has joined the call. Council member Dinowitz.
Hello.
Hi, Eric, are you here?
Oh.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Welcome.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And this is your first meeting as chair, is that correct?
It is. Yes. Thank you for.
Congratulations on your on your election to chair of this committee. Very excited for you.
Thank you. It definitely it definitely feels like it's an exciting first step. I'm looking forward to my 5th or 6th meeting when it all will feel very natural.
Well, I've seen you at the committee meetings. I'm sure you'll do fine on this very first meeting. You'll do great.
Well, thank you. Commissioner Navarro Lopez, did I see you here? I think I saw him come. I will double
he's
check.
on there.
that.
Sorry, this is Teresa Cruz from the Bronx Borough Commissioner's Office for DOT. He is on the line as well.
Hi,
Navarro.
Teresa. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Teresa, for clarifying that. And then Enzo, I see your hand is raised. Do you have something you wanted to add, or is it raised from before?
Oh, sorry, yeah, it was raised from before.
Okay, no problem. And then Deborah Hirsch, is your hand raised from before? It's lowered. Okay, wonderful. I wanted to just start off because many of you know that last week we lost a beloved member of our community, Ruth Mullins, when she was struck by a bus on Johnson Avenue in front of her home. And this was particularly tragic as she, as I understand it, had been actively campaigning for a traffic light at that intersection. And so I think we can't help but be moved and impacted by what transpired. I had many folks reach out about bringing a discussion of that intersection and the safety there to this meeting tonight. But due to the length of the agenda, we have a very full agenda tonight, and I wanted to make sure to give it the time and attention that it deserves. We're going to be taking up that discussion at the October meeting of TNT. So please, I do invite all of you to come and attend in October to discuss the Johnson and Kapok Avenue intersection. I would like to just take a moment of silence just to remember Ruth's work for the betterment of our community. Now, if there's anyone who would like to say anything, a few words, I know that I'd like to just give you that opportunity. If there's anybody who would like to just speak for a moment about her, just please raise your hand and I can let you in. Okay, I just want to make sure to make that space. So we will now move on to the public hearing. So this meeting actually was conceived on July 9th when we all woke up as though we'd been in a crazy bad dream with images of rain pouring like tidal waves down the subway steps. I'm sure we all remember that. People were wading up to their hips to get to the trains, and the northbound lane of the Deegan was still flooded from Tropical Storm Elsa the night before. I mean, at that moment, I don't think we could have guessed that in just a few weeks' time, we would have another extreme weather event, and that the flooding of the Deegan would not just be the northbound lane, but would also be the southbound lane and would go all the way from Van Cortlandt Lake all the way down past 230th Street, past 225th. So I thought what might be helpful would be to quickly run through some basic facts about the flooding and to situate it in the kind of the broader context of the very needed work we have to do to mitigate impact from stormwater. It's really just to kind of make sure we're all kind of grounded in some of how the stormwater maps are drawn and where the flood zones are. There are a lot of people on this call who are experts, and I look forward to hearing from all of them about the Deegan, but I just wanted to kind of start out, and I will go very quickly through these things. So there's nothing new or surprising really about the flooding, I think, to most people that happened. It's the convergence of three factors as I understand it, and we'll learn more tonight. Stormwater outfalls from Van Cortlandt Village, Kingsbridge Heights, so the water coming down the hill from the east. The New York City combined sewer overflow being unable to manage the capacity of Van Cortlandt Lake during an extreme rain event. And then all of the weirs and catch basins that require ongoing maintenance and are not resilient enough and get clogged. So the weather changes we thought were years off, climate change that we thought we still had some time to address are clearly here. And we need to, they're impacting the heart of our district and the primary artery really of the entire city. So I wanted to let me just pull up, I'll share my screen here for a moment. Let's see here. Hey, Karen, can you, are you allowed to, able to share your screen? It's giving me a funky.
I'm gonna try.
You have to be a host.
Yeah, I thought I was made a host. Yeah, I'm a host.
We hope. Yeah.
There's my thing. Share my screen. Desktop one, let's see.
I actually can't do anything either.
I see, wait a second. I'm gonna admit iPad. I see Apple has locked down my screen, so it's very safe in case anybody was worried. There we go.
Yeah, I think that's what happened to me.
There. Okay, let's see if you can see it. I know it's a little messy, but it's not letting me just show the one.
I see something.
Can you see the whole presentation?
Hearing
I
on
see
the
it.
Deegan Expressway flooding.
Yes.
There we go.
You're not in presentation.
I know I'm not in presentation mode. Like that? Can you hear me?
That's good.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I mean, just to center in this, so on July 8th, Tropical Storm Elsa hit. This was what I was just discussing. As you can see, the northbound lane of the Deegan flooded. We got, in this particular event, 2 to 5 inches of rain. The southbound lane below 230th was flooded. This is over here, you can see, this is the southbound lane. And the reason the cars are going the wrong direction is because they were asked to turn around. So what you see is that there were cars that were trying to kind of we're trying to go through the water, see if they could make it. Some of them were not so successful. And then the vast majority of people were turning around on the major Deegan and trying to get back off, which is obviously not the most safe thing in the world. And then comes September 1, we see that it's substantially worse. From 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., we got 7.5 inches of rain almost. Northbound and southbound lanes were flooded. They were flooded over the tops of cars. And Corton Lake was flooded. 13 people in New York City were killed. Most of that due to basement flooding, although there were in the broader New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, there were people who were killed due to, they were killed in their cars due to flooding. Here, back at home, FDNY reported 80 disabled vehicles, 31 people rescued at Van Cortlandt South, and 17 people rescued at 230th Street from their cars. And then here's just some more pictures, all courtesy of Jordan Moss. That's where I got these photos from. So, I mean, the flood waters are just staggering how deep they were. And then I happened to take this screen grab the day of the storm. This was at about 11 o'clock at night. This is a Google map. Oops, what's going on, man? This is a Google map of the basically the Deegan closed, Mosholu extension closed and flooded in some parts and just completely backed up. The Henry Hudson was closed up here. The other parts of Henry Hudson had disabled vehicles that were blocking portions of the lane. Additionally, the Sprain had portions that were flooded. Bronx River Parkway had portions that were flooded. George Washington Bridge also had portions that were flooded. And I thought that just in terms of understanding the magnitude, on an average day, between 225th Street and Van Cortlandt Ave South, there are about 10,000, almost 11,000 cars that pass through, according to New York State DOT. The Deegan itself, originally when it opened in the 50s, was designed to be a boulevard because it's a Robert Moses project. He had a lot of these ideas of having, parkland and having it be this kind of beautiful vista, but that with this kind of twist that it would also allow truck traffic. So the Deegan by its design was supposed to be kind of the all-purpose Henry Hudson Parkway, kind of the all-purpose Bronx River Parkway, where trucks would be able to get into the heart of the city and connect over to the George Washington Bridge. So it's a primary artery for all the vehicle types in New York City. It's opened in 1956. 400 households were displaced to build it, which will come will come into context in a moment when we talk about environmental justice zones. It's 8.5 miles long. 150,000 vehicles travel on it on any given day, the entire length. It's a primary bus and truck route, as I mentioned, and also 4 express bus routes use the Deegan as part of their regular daily routes. It connects to, and this is kind of staggering when you start to put it all together, it connects to Mosholu Parkway, the Cross Bronx Expressway, which is how we get to the George Washington Bridge, the Triborough, the Henry Hudson, the Sawmill Parkway over to the Taconic, the Bruckner, connects the Grand Concourse, Cross County, Tappan Zee. It is the beginning of the New York State Thruway, which goes to Montreal, and then it has connections to many, many Manhattan bridges. So obviously it's a major point of connection for people in Manhattan, also if they need to get off of the island in the case of an emergency. Additionally, if they need to get supplies in the event of an event like Sandy. This event on September 1, I want to be clear, was a stormwater event as opposed to coastal surging, which is what Hurricane Sandy was. I thought it would be helpful to just post, and we can reference this if we need to, the stormwater flood maps from open data. So if you can see here that with a moderate amount of stormwater flooding, so if we get 2 inches of rain in an hour, which is considered a 10-year flood, that the expectation is that there would be some flooding at the lower portion of the Deegan, that it would be 1 foot or greater of flooding, and that it would be sustained. And that's also true here at the top of Bailey. This kind of flooding is about topography, fundamentally, where the water flows, and it's going to flow to the lowest points. You'll see with the extreme stormwater flood, which is 3.5 hours of rain, or 3.5 inches of rain in an hour, all of the Deegan begins to get substantially inundated with water. And then you start to begin to see the flooding over here as well. So I thought this was a useful map. The red highlights the wetlands, by the way, which is our beloved kind of Van Cortlandt Lake and Van Cortlandt Lake wetlands area, which Karen will talk a little bit about in a moment. Also, New York City's 2020 floodplain, just in general, areas that are expected to see some kind of flooding during rain. I thought it would just be helpful to ground in here we are in the 2020s. This is the green here, that these are areas that are the lowest in our district, and that you can see that it basically follows the Deegan kind of all the way down. This is what I mean when I say that's not really a surprise that this happened, but that is certainly we need to rise to the occasion and figure out what we need to do to prevent people from getting from drowning in their own cars, frankly. And then you can see here that this is the future floodplain from the 2080s. So this is the expectation in 50 years of what will our community board look like. So to go back, this is now and kind of the expectations of flooding. You see along the coast here, along the Henry Hudson, you see in here, and along the Deegan. And then in 50 years, it's expected to be just much, much worse. This is also, I put this in and then realized that it had been updated. This is the 2020 storm surge map that shows where the evacuation zones are. I thought that might be helpful. At the time, there are just the 2 evacuation maps. There are experts on this call who will be able to talk more about this if they choose to. But that you can see, this is the current storm surge evacuation zones 1 through 6 for this summer that was just released. And you can see that we have along the Deegan, all sorts of different evacuation zones at different levels. This would be for, since it's a hurricane evacuation zone, this is in regards to storm surge. So what's interesting about this particular corridor is that it's between a lake and the ocean. And so the Harlem River. And so it gets the water from both ways. It gets water from the lake and it gets water from the river. And Karen can talk a little bit more about this in a moment. And finally, I wanted to just admit two people to the call. To raise the fact that this is an environmental justice zone. Here you can see the Deegan coming right through. Environmental justice zones are defined as any place where a census tract has 20% or more individuals that live at or below the federal poverty line, or 30% of the population or more identifies as non-white minority. The reason for calling these zones out is just that historically they've been underserved and they've been disproportionately impacted by environmental impacts and by climate change and by pollution. And so these zones are part of what the Mayor's Office of Climate and Sustainability, they're attempting to identify and try to figure out how to best address these negative impacts. And so I think we need to think of this also in the context of the Deegan. So that is, I'm going to stop the share.
Can you do mine? Can you do mine? I can't do it.
I think you can do it. You should be able to share.
No, I'm not, my button's not working at all. I'm stuck someplace here.
Here, wait, I'm going to make you, I've made you the host. So now try.
Nope. Nope. I can't move my stuff around. I'm on the iPad, so I didn't realize. There's like 90 people on here too, so.
Yeah, then you'll need, I can't share, then I don't have your presentation. Let me see.
Okay, so I'll just talk about it.
Why don't you just talk about it? Yeah, I mean, you know this off the top of your head, so. Also, why don't you make me the host again, so then I can help with admitting, so you don't have to worry about that while you're presenting.
Okay.
It's over if you go into the participants list. Yeah.
Oh, so I probably have to make you the host.
You have to make me the host, and then I can admit people.
Make host. Okay, good.
All right,
Okay.
so have at it.
All right, I'll do this quick. Just get it out here. Okay, so as Deb said, we did have flooding that went all the way, I can verify, up to 230th Street. I assume it went to 225th Street and into the Harlem River behind Tibbetts, behind Target. The Tibbetts Brook is about 50 to 70% in Westchester County, and the rest of it is in Van Cortlandt Park. I have some old pictures. We'll probably put them up on the minutes of how the Tibbetts Brook came down many, many years ago and where it was. And then I also have some maps about where all the outfalls are. I think there's about 40 outfalls in Van Cortlandt Park. That's stormwater outfalls that are in Van Cortlandt Park itself that discharge someplace on the land or into the wetlands or the lake, which when they get overflowed, it just keeps overflowing. And that's not counting anything that's on any of the highways. And of course, all of that goes into the weir, which then goes into 056. And you can see that there is a piece of land that follows the old Putnam Trail down south of the park, and it goes all the way until it hits 230th Street, and then it becomes MTA property. But during this flood, it was all completely wet. In fact, I have pictures that were like later on in the day, it was kind of muddy, and you can see, actually, I think these pictures were taken earlier in the day, and you can see that even to 231st Street, it was completely filled up, almost up to the wall. And I remember that wall is pretty high. And then there's along the old Putnam Trail all the way to 230th Street is where the rest of the property is for the CSX. And so by daylighting it straight down there, you would make this a place where you could infiltrate any kind of runoff that would happen. And that would end up eventually going to the largest outfall in the city of New York, which is WI, Woods Island, Bronx 056. And that's pretty much my presentation, which you can't see, but we'll share it later. Okay, and now I'd like to introduce, I don't know who's speaking, Bib. I'd like to introduce, I guess Abby should maybe want to speak first.
Yeah, I think you were going to introduce Abby first, and then we'll
Abby from
open it to the floor
emergency. Yeah, okay.
to anybody from any of the agencies who would like to speak.
The Office of Emergency Management.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So first, I'd like to acknowledge, thank you for inviting me here tonight. And on behalf of the agency, we send the condolences to those who have lost their life as a result from the storm. But as many of you know, post-storm, NYSEM set up service centers in each borough staffed with agencies, nonprofit organizations, and community-based organizations to help people connect with services that they may need. Right now, they are being co-located with FEMA's disaster recovery centers. And the Bronx location is located at Hostos Community College. And I apologize, let me take a step back and say all of these resources that I'll be talking about tonight are available on www.nyc.gov/IDA. I will be talking about a few resources, so I will repeat it later on if you need me to again. So throughout the storm, emergency management was in constant communication with elected officials and community boards. We held 2 elected official calls during the storm to update on what the city's response was and what was going on. 1 second here, just looking at my notes. And I guess I'll end on as many as you know, President Biden also declared, had a declaration for Queens, Bronx, Richmond, and Kings County. So that's why our service centers are now co-located with the FEMA disaster recovery center, and those centers are open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. If anyone is interested in more information and maybe is not as tech savvy to hop on that website that I spoke about earlier, you can also call 311 and they will direct you to any of the services that you may be looking for. And I apologize if you hear the train in the background. And we also offer transportation if needed to the service centers. So I will stop here and see if anyone has any specific questions, and I will try my best to answer, or maybe if it's best from my other agency partners, they can answer as well.
Okay, well, so thank you, Abby, for that information. That's really great. Is there anybody else from an agency that would like to make a statement, or any of the elected officials? I will raise your hand and I will call on you.
Okay, is there anybody, members of the committee, that would like to ask a question?
Anybody want to raise their hand? Okay, well, so then I would like to start actually with a question for New York State DOP. John Wong, I believe you're on the call. I just would like to know to understand from your point of view, like, how do you see what happened on September 1st, and was it expected?
Hi, Deborah. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Like I said, I work for New York State Department of Transportation. I'm the Director of Operations. During the weather event, we do work very closely with New York City partners, NYPD, Office of Emergency Management, City DOT. Typically, I think Abby had mentioned earlier that when there's a big event in the city, OEM takes charge. So we, all agencies, city and state, we would work collaboratively with whatever is needed to address the weather condition. So just as an example, back in, I guess, July 8th, when we had Tropical Storm Elsa, I think OEM had requested that we, meaning State DOT, provide some assistance in terms of sweeping Major Deegan Expressway. And this is the first time we've done that. So we based on that request from OEM, New York City DOT, we did it. But just to let everyone know, New York State DOT does not, we're not first responders. We supplement whatever the city does, meaning the city agencies, whether it's City DOT, Sanitation, DEP, we're just, we supplement whatever they do. But I mean, during a moment of crisis or whatever, when OEM or City DOT or our executive up the main office makes a request, then we, based on resources, based on whatever we have available, if we can meet the mission, then we would, if there's a request, if we can fulfill the mission, then we would certainly assist. And that's what we did. There was no request from OEM on September 1st. I believe, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. They did make a request, I believe, on September 1st, I'm going to say around 5:30 p.m. However, and then soon after they made the request to sweep the Major Deegan, I believe we got another email saying that it was resolved. So going forward, New York State DOT, if there's a specific request, specific mission, we do, again, collaborate well with all the other agencies in the city. But again, it depends on what level of resources we have available. We do not have unlike DEP or City DOT or Sanitation, we do not have an unlimited budget. We have a very limited, sweeping contract, which is we've actually, this is the first contract. I've been with the department, I guess, 25 plus years. This is the first contract we had in the past decade. In other words, funded. Prior to that, we did not have a independent New York State DOT contract in New York City because, again, we were relying on the city agencies to perform the sweeping. So this is a one-time thing. We're looking to renew it. But again, it's a very limited contract. It's, it's capped, it's not like, and it's not, again, geared toward emergency response. It's just, again, a supplement to and assist the city agencies whenever we possibly can.
So just
what does it mean to sweep? What are you talking about?
Just to clarify, we have a sweeping contract that sweeps the arterial highways that are part of the state system, like the Major Deegan. We don't sweep the unbuilt system, which is owned by City DOT. So it's a sweeping contract. We do it on a cyclical basis. It's not an unlimited basis. It's, we do it, again, just to supplement what the City DOT does. Does that clarify?
What do you do with the stuff that you sweep? Do you pick it up?
Yes.
So what's cyclical? Does it come out?
We do
like
it, we do it once every 60 days because the city does it once every 60 days. And we kind of like, coordinate between us and the city so that it gets swept at least once every 30 days. That's the idea behind that.
So
and do you know if it cleans the outfalls?
Oh, that's a totally different question. We're talking about we're just talking about roadway sweeping. The outflow is you're talking about the catch basins, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, right.
That's a different agency. That's a different city agency's DEP, as you know. We do, New York State does, again, have a drainage cleaning contract. Again, it's meant to supplement what the city agency does. Again, it's a 2-year contract. We funded it, I guess, beginning 2 years ago. We believe that we would have funds to extend it in the future, but again, it's very limited. Again, these catch basin cleans are done on a cyclical basis, and it's really meant to just clean catch basins on the state system, not on the city system. And it only does it once it does one county every 2 years. So if we're talking specifically about the Browns, we'll do one contract, and then every third contract will come back to the Browns again. So again, you can see that it's only done approximately every 6 years. Again, just to supplement what the city does.
And we, DEP, do clean the catch basins before the heavy rains. I know along the Major Deegan, I know we've been out there to clean them, so. we do get involved as well.
So just to go back for a minute though, and to clarify what my question was, John, I was actually, we're the Traffic and Transportation Committee and the Environment and Sanitation Committee. So where we're approaching this is really about infrastructure. And so when we're thinking about, what happens, what I really mean is, I'm sure New York State DOT has heard of global warming and climate change and weather events and rain and water outfalls, and that's all your bread and butter stuff. As it relates to the Major Deegan, what kind of planning have you been doing for stormwater runoff? And did the Deegan, this recent flooding, how does that fit into your approach already for addressing climate change and stormwater runoff?
I work in the operations group, maintenance group. If you can share the presentation that I guess yourself and Karen, anyone else, I'd like to share with my colleagues in DOT, my planning group, my design group, my structures group. I think then we could get provide a more informed response.
Got it. Okay. So the planning group is really, you said it was the planning group, and who are the others?
I guess our planning group, I would say our design group, we will work in conjunction with our main office partners.
Okay. So that's not something that you can speak to?
No, I'm not a subject matter expert today.
Too bad. Effie, are you able to speak to kind of how DEP's been approaching this, this in preparation for these massive extreme stormwater runoffs? Effie, are you still there? Maybe she's separated.
Yes, yeah, sorry about that. I was muted the whole time. So we do assist, as I mentioned, we do assist with the highways, with having our crews come out and make sure the catch basins are functioning properly and can take water before the storm and after the storm. We're out there. In addition, for example, for Storm Ida, we prepared for it in typical fashion. We scheduled extra crews to deal with flooding locations and complaints. We checked the catch basins, the storm sewers at known flooding locations, and we muster our crews and equipment for deployment and response. DP field ops deployed pumps and Vector trucks ahead of time at many of the most severe flooding locations to have equipment on site as to handle flood water as it collected during the storm. Our crews also were responding to 311 complaints to clear blocked catch basins and pump out locations. Our crews were also responding at areas where tidal flooding can be pumped down. That's some of the information that I have on the DPN.
Do you know how much was in the Bronx, in particular in the North Bronx?
How much, I'm sorry, Karen.
How much of all of these people that you just talked about that went out before the storm and after the storm and did the cleaning? And
I can find out exactly the number of crews we have, yeah.
In the Bronx?
Yeah, we usually provide that information every year at budget consultations. And we're preparing that actually for October 4th or 5th when we have budget consultations again. But basically we can do a breakdown of all our crews.
No, I wanted to know how many were available on the day of the storm.
Okay, sure.
I see I've got some hands, so I'm going to call on some folks, starting with Frederick Klein. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, I just had a question for the state DOT. Was there any long-term damage to the Deegan because of the flooding, or is it sort of just confined to the day of and the immediate cleanup?
We still have inspections ongoing. As you know, we don't have any immediate findings of any severe or permanent deterioration, but we're finding out that maybe there's minor deterioration in terms of potential minor washout, that we're still having our diving inspection consultants, our bridge inspection consultants, so on and so forth. So it's an ongoing process, but as far as Major Deegan specifically, there's nothing that's substantial major damage.
Thank you.
David Gelman?
Yes, my question is for Effie. Effie, with this whole issue of the Tibbetts Brook and Van Cortlandt Lake and the weir and the CSO going into the Broadway sewers and overwhelming the sewers and partially going to the treatment plant at 138th Street. It's been an article of faith that that's really not a good idea. We should try to do what we can to make sure that it goes straight down to the Harlem River and flows that way. And with what happened on the Deegan, it looks like, the waters that went into the Deegan, however, probably should also go straight down to the Harlem River. Is that a valid assumption? Environmentally, is that okay that that volume of water dumps into the Harlem River? I think we've been acting on that assumption, but has anybody looked at that to see if it's a good assumption?
I will have to find out and get back to you on that.
Fair enough. Thank you.
No problem.
Next up, Stephanie Ehrlich.
Hi, thank you. So a couple things representing Van Cortlandt Park. I just want to say that there was sustained damage in the park as a result, and I don't want that to go missed. So the swimming pool in the park was damaged to such an extent, the mechanicals were damaged to such an extent that we couldn't reopen the pool after the storm. We lost 3 vehicles. We lost a van, a pickup truck, and a Toro. All of them were submerged in water. We had a fire in the park that was caused by flooding a lithium battery and exacerbated by the salt from the DSNY salt pile at Mosholu. So we had extensive damage in the park. Trails have been washed away. Staff and volunteers have been working really, really hard to get the cross-country trails back in shape. This is actually cross-country season, so it's the timing is not great. So I just would want to make sure that folks know that there was, in fact, real damage to our park. And from everything I've heard of all the parks in the whole system, Van Cortlandt Park was hit the hardest. Also, DEP, we reached out to DEP to have whatever maintenance that needed to be done pre-storm. In the week before, we knew a storm was coming and we were told that we were not a priority. So I think that is, now that we see what happens when the weir is not cleaned out and whatever maintenance needs to happen in Van Cortlandt Park is pushed aside, this is what happens.
Oh, okay.
So can I ask a question about that? What, does anybody know what the regular schedule is for cleaning out or inspecting the weir?
In all honesty, it's irregular.
And then Stephanie, just to understand what happens when the weir, I mean, obviously flooding happens when there's this extreme storm event, but just on a day-to-day, like what are the impacts of just not having the weir cleaned regularly now?
Oh, debris. I mean, there's just debris all over, and then the water can back up. What we saw was remarkable. The water came over the dam, and that isn't usually what happens, but there can be flooding. And I don't know if Christina is on the call.
She is.
Christina, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what happens when the water levels are high.
Sure. When the water goes up and over the lake, if it's not a significant rainfall when that happens, it's not a tremendous amount of damage. But if you do walk around the lake edge, you'll see where the boulders that were put in 20 years ago when they dredged the lake are no longer attached to the side of the lake. So it's like a boulder, water, and then the shoreline, the edge, because that is slowly getting eroded away and then filling up the lake. But we have had several storms where it has gone up and over the dam. When it does that, it does cause damage to the trail parks, and the Alliance, earlier this year put down brand new stone dust there, and that path looked the best it's looked in a long time, and now it looks horrible. And we had a bench that got washed away. So those are all things that can happen if the weir's not cleaned before a major rainfall.
So what do you think will be the cost roughly? Like if you had to estimate a ballpark of like the damage that we'll be seeing at the budget priority discussion later, I suppose.
Well, it's hard for me to say because Parks is evaluating that, and
Okay.
the way that things work, the pool is sort of its own entity within the park system. You know, there are multiple pools throughout the agency, so they're sort of their own department. But we can certainly get you some numbers about the vehicle loss and about the trails. I mean, there's thousands of dollars in stone dust loss, also just people hours, you know.
Right, absolutely. Is there anybody on the committee who would like to ask questions? Otherwise, I'm going to open it up to the public because I have a feeling there's probably some very good questions out there. Anybody on the committee? Okay. So, so if anybody on the call at all would like to ask a question of anybody else on the call, please feel free to raise your hand and I will call on you. Deborah Hirsch, the floor is yours.
Sorry. I think part of it was answered, but I'm just going to read what my husband wanted to ask. And then if part of it wasn't answered, that could be addressed. So my husband's Kevin Johns. He wanted to ask what happened to our catch basin system on the Deegan. Was there excessive garbage clogging? Are they vacuumed out by vac trucks on a regular basis? Parkways are next to rivers and they have a history of flooding, but not the Deegan.
Okay, thank you for that. I think the questions are all answered, right?
Yeah, I think they have been answered, right?
Okay.
But good questions.
Well, good questions. Vittorio Bagatti.
Yeah, I'm just wondering from the commuter perspective, there were a number of express buses that were stuck on the Deegan. I'm just wondering what sort of contingency plan would there be going forward for that so that you don't have, you know, that sort of setup.
Who would like to take that question? Abby, was your office doing the coordinating?
I will have to take that one down and get back to you on that one.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak to it? Like what the response was for rerouting express buses, or if there's any different plan for that going forward? Okay. So Vittorio, OEM will take that down and they'll get back to us on it.
Thank you.
We will duly note that though. Jody.
Hey there.
Hey there, good to see you on the call.
Good to see everybody. Thank you for the agencies that are here and the questions. So having been the team chief of our community emergency response team for a decade, and also staffed OEMs, NISM's emergency support function desk and the emergency operations center, I have to ask the big question that Deb, you started to allude to, so I'll be very pointed about it. It's not a surprise that the Deegan floods. It's not a surprise that we're getting these heavy rainfalls. We had over 11 inches during Irene. What are the agencies doing as preventive? Operations ends up cleaning up the mess, but you know, sweeping the storm drains is great, but are there other things that can be done on a more regular basis so that when these storms come, it reduces the impact of that? Because they're not going to get less as time goes on. And I'll skip my soapbox, but I will jump on it a second. And as we concrete over more of our soil and have less and less places for the water to go, as well as more and more asphalt and concrete, our roads become water highways that create faster speeds and create a bigger danger. A few inches of fast moving water can sweep a car away. So is anybody from DOT or DEP, can you share some of the things that you would like us as citizens to help lobby for that need to be done, that you need funding for, or are there plans in place that you can share with us to help prevent this or reduce, mitigate the impacts of something we know is coming? Anybody brave?
Very
So I
quiet
guess
out
what
there.
Jody's trying to say is, and what we're all trying to get at is, we really like a plan to figure out what we're going to do next. And I know probably everybody who's here probably wants the same thing. So maybe we could figure out a way that we could get something more, a bigger commitment than just sweeping the streets when there's a flood, or we just need a better way of looking at things. So we'd like to seriously look at this and come up with some ideas. And I don't know what the committee wants to do, but if it were up to me, I would say, you know, we'll give you 2 months, come back with some kind of plan so we can ask the powers that be to put it in the budget and take care of it. Let's start getting something done here.
Yeah, I agreed. I think that we want to trust that our city and state agencies are planning ahead for something that has already started, and that they, I mean, construction projects, doing stormwater management, thinking about how and where the water should go instead of just being reactive. We want you to be proactive, and that's what makes us believe that government is good and can function. And so I guess I'm happy that, so John, you're going to go back and we'll follow up with you to talk to some design and planning folks. Effie, are there better people or other people? There's nobody better, but are there other people who would be good to have us talk to really talk about what is the planning going forward? I know that generally DEP you're big planners over there.
We also work with the Mayor's Office of Resiliency. So that's definitely an office you may want to reach out with.
Okay.
But yeah, we're in touch with them. We do have our long-term control plans, which we've discussed before, and other drainage related solutions that we've come up with, and we've been speaking with other agency partners, but definitely the Mayor's Office of Resiliency may be another agency that you may want to contact.
Okay. Do you want to, now that you've talked a little bit about the CSOs and the long-term control plan, just since we've got folks on the call, I think it's worth just briefly, if you could just discuss the role of the CSX, Putnam South, and Van Cortlandt Lake, and how that fits into, what is the long-term control plan and how does that fit into it?
Actually, I'm not prepared to speak on that tonight, especially with CSX. And those,
I just meant in general the water situation. I didn't mean the purchase of it or anything like that. I just simply meant the mitigation of the overflow of Van Cortlandt Lake. Is that also something you're not comfortable speaking on this evening?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not aware. I know it's been brought up at this meeting that Van Cortlandt Park Lake was the cause of some flooding. I don't know if that was the cause, one of the causes that you're saying for the major Deacon. So I need to clarify that with my agency staff before, I can comment on something like that.
Okay.
So we can send you some detailed.
Yeah, absolutely, Karen.
Detailed information about the flooding. We have a lot of pictures, and I mean, it's striking. It's just striking.
So, I mean, I think that's a good follow-up. So we will send a few of these questions to both DEP and New York State DOT, and then we will report back to the next Environment and Sanitation Committee.
And we'll get the Office of Resiliency.
Office of
Mayor's
Resiliency.
Right.
Yep. And then Stephanie, I didn't want to ignore you. I saw your hand was up. Did you have something you'd like to add?
I think I'm okay.
You sure? Okay, very good. Rosemary Ginty.
Hi, I'm Amir. Good. Thank
Sure.
you. Thank you, Deb. I just, to the extent that you raised the issue of CSX, I know you were in communication with Bob, who unfortunately circumstances does not allow him to be here this evening, but I spoke with him this afternoon also. We have arranged that there will be a joint committee meeting, Environment and Sanitation and the Parks Committee. We're going to do it on the date on Bob Fanuzzi's date, the ENS's date, October 20th, I believe, a Wednesday, October 20th. We're going to have a joint Parks and ENS meeting, and the subject will be CSX. And to that meeting will be invited people from DEP and the Parks Department to talk about what state they are at with the planning for that. And obviously, Deb, your question about, you know, the water and daylight and everything is going to be part and parcel of that. So I just want not to interrupt the flow of your meeting where it's going. Since you raised CSX, I wanted to just put that in as a note for people's calendars, a joint meeting next month on kind of generally on that subject where what you're raising here will be discussed. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. No, thank you for raising that. That's great. I didn't know that. So October 20th, ENS and Parks Committees will have a joint meeting on CSX. So mark your calendars. So is there anybody else who would like to raise an issue or ask a question? Talk about the flooding going down, any other flooding that people experienced they want to bring up? Oh, wait, I see I've got Mary Ellen Gibbs. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, hi. Being as the first storm, the Deacon got so flooded with just 2 inches of rain. We knew that this next storm was coming and it was going to be a lot of rain and heavy flooding and everything. I think we need to hold somebody accountable to make sure that those drains have been looked at before storms and make sure that all those storm drains are clear. Because we saw what happened the first time, and then we like another storm later on. We had like a swimming pool on the Deegan, and it was like a real train wreck. And being as that's like a real emergency passway for everything, I think it'd be a good idea to keep that clear. So I think it'd be a great idea. I don't know if it's the state of the city that controls that, and send out people to really check those drainages really well. I don't know, maybe it's a combination of the highway was redesigned a few years ago. Maybe that has something to do with it too. So maybe they can take a good look at all that and just make sure everything is clear and the drains are clear and everything, because there has to be some kind of runoff for all that water to go to.
So what I'm hearing you say, Mary Ellen, is did the clogged drains cause the flooding? Like, is that the causation?
So much water, it looked like there was nowhere for it to go. So
Right.
something, I mean, usually it drains to a good extent. So the water had absolutely nowhere to go.
Right.
And like my idea, I always see like they're always rebuilding and rebuilding. We're cutting down too many trees. There's nothing to absorb anything anymore. We're building and building and building, extending sides of highways and everything where grass used to be and everything, and trees.
Very good.
Yeah, so I just would like to talk to what Mary Ellen said. So Mary Ellen, I don't know if you heard the DEP commissioner announce on the day, I don't know, I guess the day after the storm, the pipes are designed to catch 2 inches of rain in 24 hours. Now, that doesn't mean they weren't clogged also, but if you get 7 or 11 inches of rain in 6 hours or 3 hours or even whatever, how many hours we had, there's just not enough room in the pipe.
Yeah,
That's
but
what I'm saying. We need a new plan.
If they are clogged, maybe they should be inspected more often, you know?
That's true. That would be the short-term solution.
For
But
what
in the
we
long
have
term,
now, we should be inspecting what we do have. So
yeah,
make it run easier.
maintaining and
Yeah, it
operation.
doesn't look like we're
Yeah.
maintaining too well.
Right, right.
So I've got some hands here. I'm going to take Aria Shinsky.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mary Ellen. Those are good points.
Hey, thank you. I want to continue a question that was raised about the structural integrity of the Major Deegan and extend that to apartment buildings in the area. With the possibility of these recurring floodings happening, I know our building and a lot of the buildings in the neighborhood had severe flooding in their basements. What is my mind kind of goes to Surfside down in Florida and the possibility of something catastrophic happening. Is there any kind of assessment or kind of like idea being proposed around to look at long-term structural integrity of our residential buildings with the advent of recurring 100-year floods happening every year?
Anybody want to take that? Any, Frederick, I see your hand is up. Did you want to respond to that, or did you want to respond to something else?
I mean, I was thinking about something else, but just off the top of my head, I would guess that the default is that private buildings are responsible for inspecting their own foundations, and that the Department of Buildings would have a responsibility to get involved in cases where you don't think your building is doing enough, or if you're concerned about it. That's just off the top of my head, though.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And then what was your question that you wanted to ask?
Well,
Since I called on you, I want us to be
Yeah,
respectful.
I don't want to cut everybody in line, but just to say quickly, I know this meeting is focused on the highways, but I do think it shouldn't get lost that a lot of private buildings were having these issues. I think that's why probably a lot of people are tuned in tonight. And to the extent that water flows downhill, and when we have pipes that are too small, and when we have new developments that are taxing our storm and sewer system, which for all I'm aware is combined with sewage and stormwater together, like it's a recipe for disaster, and it's going to be a recipe for disaster every time we come. So I just didn't want to get that lost in the discussion about the Deegan. And to the extent that stormwater from nearby neighborhoods was traveling to the Deegan, I just think that's an important issue to consider as well.
So Frederick, is there up at the State House, what are the conversations that are happening now about, because we're getting it from two directions, right? We're getting the stormwater that's coming from the sky, and then a lot of our flooded areas around the Broadway corridor and Deegan corridor are the result of the high water table and global warming and just higher sea levels, and then storm surges. So what's the conversation at the state level about how to help and how to prevent these things from happening, so that we're not just sitting ducks when it starts to rain or when there's a hurricane?
Yeah, I think a lot of the conversation is focused on long-term climate change legislation to sort of mitigate emissions, but that, I mean, I'm going to be blunt, that's not particularly helpful for people whose basement flooded. So I think that is something that's going to have to be discussed. I think in general, these types of issues are often deferred to the city. Maybe there's funding from the federal government that gets passed through states and then to the city, but I think a lot of the conversation, at least that I'm hearing in the State House, is focused on sort of like policies to disincentivize greenhouse gas emissions, which it's not on the same time scale that I think a lot of people on this call are looking for help. So it's an important thing, and to the extent there are ideas, send them our way.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go back to our list of folks with questions. Clotilde Rodriguez.
I just want to do a time check, Debbie. It's 8:07.
Yep, it's 8:07. I guess we'll go with the next. If there's anybody who has a very pressing question, raise your hand right now. Otherwise, we'll go with the next three people, and then we will wrap up this discussion for tonight. Clotilde?
Okay, I wanted to add the intersection of 256 and Riverdale Avenue as an area that should be analyzed and studied. I think Frederick said it really appropriately. The density of the population has increased. The pipes are simply no longer designed to take it. In our building, 5601 Riverdale Avenue, during the 3 summer storms, the one that happened in June, then Elsa in July, and certainly Ida most recently on September 1st, apartments on the first floor had toilets overflow. And it's essentially the result of what's happening at the intersection of 256th and Riverdale Avenue
which is essentially a valley. I mean, you've got hills that are coming down, and not only is our building a concern, but PS 81 abuts the intersection. And so whenever that intersection is flooded, you then have to worry about school children having to cross the street. There's a lot of car traffic as well, so they've got to deal with that. So I just want to make sure it's included. I went to the 311 website and I registered the situation. And I think there's one thing that happened a year ago that has exacerbated the situation. And that is when there was the drag racing accident and one of the corners was destroyed and rebuilt. In rebuilding that corner, there was excessive concrete used, and the way that the grates were installed just does not seem appropriate, doesn't allow the flow as I think it should happen. So I just want to make sure that's included.
Okay, thank you. And then if you can also just, if you've submitted 311, just send those complaint numbers to the office, and then they can also kind of follow up and see if there's a trend of other people reporting the same flooding. That would be really helpful.
Done.
Great, thank you.
Actually, I did receive that location, 256th Street and Riverdale Avenue, 45601 Riverdale Ave. And we were out there September 2nd because I know there was a sewer backup complaint filed. DP Field Ops inspected the city sewer. It was down and running, which means there was no issue. The sewer system was overtaxed due to the storm. And actually we were out there August 31st and August 21st as well. And during those times as well, it was in response to sewer backup complaints, and DP Field Ops inspected its infrastructure and found the city sewer down and running, which means there were no other issues.
Right, I think this speaks to what Karen was describing, where the system is working as expected. However, it's a storm system that can't handle storms any longer. And so that something bigger needs to be done.
It's
Yeah.
excessive rainfall, and that's when you're having these issues.
Sure.
These once every 200 or 500-year storms now.
Right, or twice in one summer. This is the challenge, I think.
Actually, 3 times for those who live on our first floor. They had to go through it 3 times this summer, so.
Right.
If they incurred, and this is for anyone who incurs property damage, you know, and you feel it's due to the city's negligence, you can file a New York City Comptroller's claim form. I always tell everyone, you know, go and file one if you incurred property damage. Make sure you include your 311 complaint numbers, any photos or any other evidence that you can include on there. It's important to put these complaints and log them with 311, okay? It's very important to do that. So I just wanted to stress that. And file a claim form with the New York City Comptroller's Office.
Great, thank you, Effie. I'm going to move on to Eric.
Hi, I'll be brief. So I just want to add our building into the mix. We're 3901 Independence Avenue on the corner of 239th Street in Independence. But people, you know, we got hit severely, especially the first floor on the west side of our building. I mean, the east side of our building got creamed, and the person who will speak after me was affected because she lives there. She'll tell you in more detail. But people have been complaining about the issue of flooding in our building for years. This isn't just now. And it was always back and forth between DEP and the city, and nobody really wanted to take responsibility. And I hope that now that this is kind of risen to the surface, pardon the pun, 3901 Independence Avenue will be looked at, and because it's a bit overdue. It's not just this summer. This has been happening for a while.
We have been at 3901 Independence numerous times, actually. We've checked the catch basins there to make sure that they're functioning properly. We've met with building management, the building super in there. Our field ops has a good relationship with your building superintendent. I'll be following up with the community board and the elected officials regarding 3901 Independence, but we're fully aware of it.
Yes, I know. And thank you. I just wanted to, raise my hand to it. But thank you very much for your effort.
Thank you, Eric. Robin Weber.
Hi, everybody. This is going to be emotional, so please forgive me. I live at 3901 Independence Avenue. I've been flooded out 3 times this year. I have 2 sump pumps going. I have a piece of wood jammed into my bathroom door, and I still got over 80 gallons of sewer water in my apartment from the last storm. Now, that is one of the 3 times. Right now, because it's supposed to be raining sometime today, the quick dams lined up in my bathroom. I have the sump pump and the hose ready to go if I have to install it. Now, if you say you've been to the building, I put in a 311 complaint. It was closed with them saying they spoke to somebody. They didn't speak to me. How can you say that after the storm, everything works perfectly? That's great. What happens during the storm? Why don't you come to my apartment during the storm so you could see what's actually happening? I don't need sewer water in my apartment because the city and the building can't figure out what's wrong. I'm not the only apartment on this floor that's being damaged. How much money do I have to spend personally because the building and the city can't fix the problem? Sorry, it is emotional because I'm still living with it. I have sewer speakers on right now because if it overflows again, I don't want to wreck all my shoes.
Effie, do you have anything you want to say?
Like I said, we've been at that location several times. The building does have their own drains internally on the property that they were going to look into. So we'll be following up, like I said, with the community board and electeds on that one.
Yeah, Robin, if you could also just be in touch with the community board office, then Kara and the office can work with you directly to try to assist, try to help you with this. Okay. I'm gonna move on to our last person, just in the interest of time. Marielle. Marielle, do you have any questions?
Sorry, it takes me a second to get off of mute.
that's fine.
I'm on my phone. I just wanted to say, just a follow up with Effie. So if people do feel like the city is at fault for the issues that they have, you have 90 days to file a claim. And wanted to clarify as well. Sorry, a claim with the controller's office. I work for the controller's office. But it is, sometimes it's called the reimbursement. It is not a reimbursement, right? It is a whole process that there is an investigation if it actually is a city issue. And also too, that would determine what people may or may not get back. So it is not, I had this issue, I feel the city's at fault, I spent this amount, that's what I get back, because that's what a reimbursement would be, and it's not a reimbursement. So it's kind of saying, we're filing a claim, we're filing a lawsuit, to some extent. And then this is what we feel that we deserve. And then it's a long process, but it is something that people should do within 90 days of whatever the issue is. So that's all I wanted to say to clarify.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And then Abby with OEM, you get the final word. I saw that you raised your hand.
I just wanted to follow up because I heard Robin and the issues that she's having in her apartment. Robin, I do suggest that if you can call 301 again or hop on that website of nyc.gov/IDA. DOB is doing water removal. I would say call in or visit that website to see if we can get you some of that help. And as I mentioned earlier, and I think Frederick kind of up that issue of the FEMA did issue a disaster, a federal declaration, which means that there is federal money being used to help. So FEMA is also at these service centers, and these are just some of the services. I'll read a few of them off. The water removal, there is also food, if our pantries that are there, if you need that, school assistance, and I will share some of these specific services with the community board. I think there's some specific issues, but everything is listed on that nyc.gov/IDA website. And the community board does have my email in case there's any more follow-up questions.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Abby. I appreciate that. And now I think we're going to pivot over to talking about 2727 Palisade, who I believe Lou is on the call. I see you. Did you want to make I can try to share the video of the rainfall that you experienced, or we can just kind of jump right into it. I'm having a little bit of trouble with sharing, so it's up to you. I think you'll probably be impactful enough without it, but I'm happy to try. Oh, you're muted. Oh, Lou, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. There we
Great.
go.
Okay, you can start the video and I'll give my presentation, okay?
There we go.
Do that. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lou Wunderlich and I reside at 2727 Palisade Avenue, High Point on the Hudson. I want to speak briefly about the significant problems our building now faces as a result of DOT's sidewalk extension project at Kapok Street and Palisade Avenue. This project was ill-conceived from the start, as local residents vocally pointed out at the time, and was then compounded by poor execution that our building now faces significant flooding for the first time since its completion in 1955. High Point has flooded twice in as many months, on July 8th and September 1st. Our lobby, boardroom, and driveway were underwater, endangering the safety and well-being of our residents and staff. We now face the expense of costly restoration repairs and a structural integrity inspection. I'm speaking today for three reasons. First, the DOT ignored all community concerns and input, including a working group plan to address the original flaws, all of which has fallen on deaf ears. Just this morning, I did receive an email from DOT that suggests they finally may be taking this seriously. But is this really the kind of response that we want, waiting for the worst outcome to occur before recognizing that a problem exists? Second, and most relevant, now that DOT seems to be finally paying attention, they failed to follow their own design guidelines and the stormwater management regulations of New York State. They altered drainage patterns without maintaining stormwater flow to adjacent catch basins, hence the mess we now face ourselves in. Now we find ourselves in. And third and most ironic, this project was not necessary in the first place, based on traffic accident records and a pedestrian traffic survey that showed few people cross Kapok Street over the course of DOT's study. As I noted initially, High Point never experienced any flooding in its 66-year history. Even Hurricane Sandy left us dry in its wake. I hope DOT's most recent outreach means that they are ready to take action, and that action should be nothing less than the following: removing the existing curb extensions and restoring the intersection to its pre-construction condition. Thank you.
Thank you. So also to just provide a little bit of context, if there are folks who haven't been as involved with this over the years, the timeline is that in May 2019, DOT presented their plan to the community board, and this work was done in September of 2019. And so it's been a contentious issue since. I want to open up to the committee, I guess, to the committee, if they've had any questions they'd like to ask Lou just about impacts and kind of what happened. And then open it up to the commissioner if he would like to comment or make a statement. Is there anybody on the committee who would like to ask a question or to speak? Anybody? Okay. All right, so then next I'll go over to the commissioner. Navardo, is there anything you would like to say in response to Lou?
Hi, Deb. I'm sorry. This is Dorisa Cruz again from the Bronx Borough Commissioner's
Office. Dorisa, I'm sorry, I didn't call on you. Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's okay. There's just, we're doing two meetings at once and I apologize for that. So I'm here to hopefully answer any questions. And I just wanted to let everyone know that we are taking a look at this again. I know it's been 2 years and I know that the situation is critical to the people who live in that building. So we are going to take a look at this again. And I'm happy to answer any questions as best as I can.
Okay, thank you for that statement. I'm going to open it up to just questions from the group as a whole, starting with Mary Sari.
Hi, Deb. Thank you very much. I am also a resident of High Point, 2727 Palisade Avenue for the last 20 years. And along with my husband, Robert Harrington, we have been part of the working committee. We are here today because DOT caused the flooding at 2727 Palisade Avenue and was repeatedly warned by the working committee this would happen. They knew this would happen and they refused to fix it. This committee was formed in a direct reaction to this project. Our focus was to work with Bronx DOT, Navarro Lopez, with our good faith attempts to provide an alternate solution, which were always ignored. At every meeting with DOT, the water runoff was always voiced as a primary concern. Again, this issue was always ignored or dismissed. A full proposal with renderings were presented to DOT and once again, totally ignored. Stonewalling by DOT, delays in responding by DOT, ignoring community and local officials have led to 2 years of failure by Bronx DOT to fix this flawed project. The committee's fear is the delays in stonewalling will continue based on our experience. Bronx DOT isn't even at this meeting. DOT must immediately restore the sidewalks to their previous configuration where existing catch basins have been proven to prevent the flooding. Future storms will put 2727 Palisade at serious risk, and therefore our committee would oppose any halfway measures as being insufficient to protect us. So again, in closing, I know a lot of people want to speak and they should. DOT caused this flooding. They were repeatedly warned by the working committee. They knew this would happen and they refused to fix it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mary. Next, Jennifer.
Yeah. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jeff Sklar. I'm a resident at 2727. And I, of course, want to echo that the street has to be returned to its original condition or we're going to get forever flooding. But a secondary problem emerged today and a very serious one. Our building has about 30 residents that have Verizon landlines. Those landlines were damaged by the last flood in July, and they were, of course, taken out by the most recent flood in September. Verizon informed me today that unlike in July, they will not fix the damage. Now, let me repeat this. In July, they sent teams out to go down the manhole in front of our building, dredge out the sludge, determine which copper wire was defective, and replace it. That action successfully brought all 30 lines back. This time, the repair person told me they're going to pursue a different solution. They will provide residents of our building with something called a VTS unit, which is a unit that receives cell phone coverage. You then plug your phones into this unit, and the line connection is now effectively as a cell phone would be. This is, of course, a vastly inferior connection than going through a wired connection. Now, they tell me that the ultimate solution will be to replace all the copper wire with Fios. But that project is not due until next year. And that's been moved out and moved out repeatedly. So until that time, Verizon will simply supply an inferior solution And we may have to wait many, many months before our real phone service is restored. Now, the repair person admitted that this solution is awful, and he said the way around it is to enlist the support of your local political representatives. So I know we have Councilman Dinowitz, we have Assemblyman Dinowitz, we have people from all over. We cannot fix this problem with Verizon on our own. We need our politicians to contact Verizon and demand two things. The first is that they go back to the same manhole cover in July, dredge it, isolate the defective wire, and repair it. And secondly, if they want to give us FiOS, which is a solution that won't be compromised by water, they need to do it more expeditiously than next year. Thank you for your time. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you for adding that. I will say that just as an aside, in the previous building that I lived in, we were flooded due to Hurricane Sandy, and we had the same situation where the old copper wires were damaged. And it was the same situation where Verizon said that we can't, they were not going to replace it. Everybody had to lose their landlines. And that in that case, political pressure did help with getting FiOS installed more quickly. So it didn't save our landlines, but it did move us into the future and provide really good quality, high quality internet service going forward. So I can offer that just as personal testimony to this. Does either the assemblyman or the councilman's office want to speak to respond?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, this isn't an issue where, because Verizon has been trying to get off the copper wires for a very long time. They often run into resistance from, I'm going to be blunt, like older folks who like their copper wire system, which is, they're entitled to that. But this is a longstanding issue with Verizon. Just to be clear, the folks at 2727 Palisade, you all are fine with the FiOS conversion. You just don't want to wait a whole year, and you think they should either clean off the copper wires now while they're waiting for the FiOS contract or upgrade to FiOS now, right? Is that correct?
That's an excellent summary. Thank you so much.
Gotcha. I will bring that back to the assemblyman. I don't know if it was you, somebody emailed us about this. We will follow it up and try to do what we can.
Can I say something?
Thank you. I just want, we've got to order of things. So if you want to raise your hand, I'll raise your hand and then we will get right back to you. That's okay. You can raise it in you can raise it in Zoom. If you go all the way down to the bottom where it says participants, unless it's specifically on the Verizon issue. Is it specifically on the Verizon issue?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, and please speak.
Okay, I just unmute me.
You're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes. You're frozen.
You went away.
They're frozen.
Unmute.
Hello.
They're frozen. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to call on Rosemary, and then we'll come back to them when they've recovered.
Thank you. Okay, so to get off Verizon and get back to the original purpose of this conversation is the flooding that 2727 got. And I'm going to call that poor building the target of DOT bad planning. I was part of the original working group. One of the finest community groups that I have ever worked with in Community Board 8, working diligently and honestly with DOT to try and rectify the mess that they made in the beginning. Whether it's Lou or the members of the original and continuing working group, of all the issues, they said, you have to change the curbing. Do you see what you've done? You have changed the drainage of the water coming off Capoc hitting Palisade. It's obvious. You'd have to be blind not to see what they did, how they screwed up the drainage there. And I remember back at that time, I remember asking the question of DOT, did you talk to DEP about what you're doing? It's clear you have changed the drainage, how the water flows down to Palisade. And the answer was no. DOT never had a conversation with DEP about the drainage, where the water was going to go. This is a disgrace. This needs to be rectified. They made the mistake. DOT made the mistake. They must fix it now. There is no other excuse. They must fix it. What they have done is, again, have made 2727 a target of the water coming down Capoc. It is clear. It's been proven. Now it's been proven. It's kind of, we told you so. We told you so. And there it is. We have seen it now. And I will tell anyone who says, why don't you just go sue the city, is not understanding what has been done to this community, this part of our community. This is not about suing and getting damages for some rugs in a lobby. This needs to change. Okay, I have to stop. I'm so angry at this issue, Deb. I must stop. But this needs to change. DOT needs to change this.
Thank you, Rosemary. I'm going to move right on to Dan, who I think may also share some of your sentiments.
Hi, Deb. I certainly do. So thank you for calling on me. I noticed in Lou's screen before his video didn't play, which I thought
That's my fault. Yeah, I can play that again.
Possible for you to hit share screen. If you put the multiple folks, I can just kind of share it from this end as well.
Oh, here I can actually just I can share it properly. It was open twice on my screen. So here, just 1 second.
Deb, is my microphone still live?
Your microphone is live, yeah.
Okay, so one thing I want to point out in the video, you'll see.
So
can you see it now?
Yeah,
we
it's
can see the
playing.
video.
There are right in front, you can see a Con Edison transformer vault. We have 2 of them. Not only, if that vault floods, not only does our building get affected, but other buildings in the area get affected. That transformer controls all our underground pumps, which are lower than the roadway. Our sewage has to get pumped up. Our water has to get pumped up to the roof to come back down again. So we won't have electric, we won't have sewer, and we won't have drinking water if those transformer vaults flood again.
I'm gonna stop the share.
Are you good, Lou? Okay, can you hit the share? Mine is a little bit different than Lou's.
Oh, okay. Well, Dan, I just want to be mindful of time. So
I understand.
just
This is terrible.
What's terrible? Is this Karen?
No, it wasn't. It was.
Okay. Okay.
You ready?
Yep. You should be able to share. There you go.
Excellent. Thank you. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So this, the reason I wanted to show it, just so everyone can see what it is that the folks have been discussing. And, there's been some reference to the working committee, back, when DOT started working on this project, the Traffic and Transportation Committee, we formed a working committee. That working committee, again, Rosemary, chair of the board, was on it, myself, and 3 folks, 2 of whom you've listened to this evening, being Mary, Lou, and Robert as well. For 2 years, we've been trying to work with DOT and trying to collaborate with DOT. Back in it must have been 2020, early 2020, I think it was, that Polly Trottenberg, the former DOT commissioner, came up to this community and saw the issue. We had great conversations with former Commissioner Trottenberg, and we thought that we were making progress. When Polly left, we lost a lot of, I'd say, momentum with where we were going. The last we left off with the working committee is that DOT, would not agree to changing the curb shape, which is essentially a funneling of water into the intersection, which we've been saying, since they constructed it, but did agree to actually take some of the concrete up on the curbs and to put in some green space. Now, while we're happy with the green space and we said, please move forward with it, we were also very clear in the email that we did not think that it would resolve the problem. I think the last 2 storms that have been referenced certainly show that this funnel shape with this high curb bringing water right to 2727 is causing the problems that they have. And when I look at this cascading water going right to their property, and when I look at that dirty water in their lobby, I'm devastated, because quite frankly, a city agency caused this. And I would hope that every member of this committee, of both committees, join our voice at this time. We're not asking for a resolution, nor do we want a resolution, but we do want to see members of this board and this committee state that we want DOT to rip up these concrete curbs and restore it to its previous condition. This is absolutely revolting what has happened. I can't tell you how horrible I feel for the residents of this building who have to look at this whenever there's a storm. I'll end it there. I do have very strong feelings about it. But again, this was done by DOT and they should immediately rip up these curbs. There should be no more stalling. At this point, the agency should just own that a mistake was made and do what they have to fix this mistake. They should restore it back to its previous condition. I'll end there. Thank you. And Rosemary and the members of the working group, thank you so much for all of your hard work over the last 2 years, all of your input, all of your thoughts, everything. Even the design we had would have been 10 times better than what's sitting there right now. Thank you very much.
So Dan, you're still sharing. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Dan. Next, S. Cassidy.
Hi, we're the Cassidys. We're in 2727. I'm Patrice Cassidy. This is Steve Cassidy, and we are newbies to this building. We did a substantial renovation in 2018 when we moved out from drought-ridden San Diego. So we were a little naive about the forces of water out here. We are the people who had just moments before the rush of water came down from K-Pot, put our 5- and 7-year-old grandsons into our car and right exactly where the water rushed down.
Somebody's just not to interrupt you, but somebody's got the whiteboard. Just want to stop sharing.
Not me.
Yeah, somebody
It's
is.
not me.
It's not me. We don't have a whiteboard.
I could check. I stopped sharing though. I could check it out.
It says we're viewing Renee's screen.
Renee, can you?
I have no idea what to do.
Hit share screen and then stop.
There should be there should be a share screen, like a little red share screen someplace.
All right.
There we go. All right, I'm
Did
going
I
to
do
turn
it?
that. You're good. I've
Sorry.
turned that.
Thank
No,
you.
it's totally fine. Thank you.
Okay, so for us, we had just put the grandsons in their car seats and had pulled out and we're headed down to Brooklyn during this.
Also, just I just want to wait due to the time, just to make sure to try to keep it to 1 to 2 minutes, just because we're starting to get late and we still have quite a bit of business to conduct. So I just want to tell you that, and that this will be the end of. We've got like 6 more people, and then that'll be the end for comments.
Okay.
All right, thank you. That's the last of the interruptions. Now take it away.
It was frightening, not only for our kids, our grandkids, but for the possibility of someone needing to come in on an emergency basis and help someone in our building. There are small dogs that are also in our building, and our people who work here have been way overburdened by it. In any event, we just want to give voice that we feel the same way, that it's a terrible situation and we would like it to be repaired. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jody?
Hey again, I do not live in 2727 Palisade, but to add fuel to the fire, this was absolutely preventable. Even before the working group was formed, the community board approached me about this, since I'm kind of busybody about what goes on here and am very interested in stormwater. And I suggested that rather than this 1,500 square feet of concrete, that a rain garden be put in, which would include a curb cut that could direct the water into a sunken planted area with an outfall into the storm drain. They have similar things up on 230 Fifth Street and Riverdale Avenue. And DOT's answer to the community board was, sure, we'll do that, but the community group has to sign a memorandum of understanding to maintain it, as well as get $1 million liability insurance policy in case they get hurt while they're maintaining it. Now, that's totally unreasonable for a city agency to ask the community to do that when they've been warned that this is going to create a diversion of water, of rainwater from the storm drains that were functioning perfectly previously. There is a storm drain on each side of the street. It is, it was in line with the previous curb cut. It is now circumvented by the current curb cut. I think this is bureaucratic box checking. I don't know what DOT's agenda is, but it seems there's a false narrative that a wide street is very dangerous and pedestrians are too stupid to look two ways and wait until the rare car that goes by goes by. So adding so much concrete where there wasn't a real safety issue, I too had looked up accidents in that corner and it's negligible. And I just think that there's no solution, no fix to it, except tear that stupid thing out, put it back to the way it was, and leave our neighborhood alone if you are going to act in an agency silo and not do what this community board is doing. Having joint meetings with environment and sanitation and transportation. If our city agencies are going to act in silos, we are constantly going to have these problems. DOT changes concrete, adds a change curb line. They need to consult with DEP about water flow. It's just that simple. So I don't think that there's a fix to this, except tear it out. That's the best that DOT can offer our community. They've torn out bike lanes because they put them in the wrong places. They made it more dangerous. They can tear out a curb that was not needed in the first place. So I'm trying to be polite, but I am extremely angry over this because it was totally preventable. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Mary Ellen?
Hi.
I want to speak.
Hello, hi. I was a tenant of, well, my parents are still at River Terrace, 2621 Palisade Avenue. Lived there from 1971 as a small child. In my wildest dreams, I have no idea why they would redesign that street with all that curvage that comes all the way out. To me, it's dangerous, even like driving on it and everything else. I was a small child crossing that street by myself. Not once did I ever get hit by a car because they were so wide there. I mean, we went through major snowstorms, hurricanes, and never once have I seen anything like I just saw in that video of the flooding that was so bad. And you have like people that live there a long time, elderly people who that flood water is coming into their houses and everything. I mean, that is so bad that they couldn't even do it themselves. My parents, my mother and my stepfather live still in River Terrace. They're elderly people, both in wheelchairs. You can't get, God forbid something happens, you can't get emergency vehicles even in there the right way, especially if it starts to flood like that. I mean, that's a very big concern. Again, how I mentioned how they keep putting all that concrete. I mean, I think one day our city's going to sink. They keep putting so much concrete everywhere and building everywhere. But you're putting so much cement there and everything, and you're taking away from the natural drainage in our community where there was grass, trees, and you keep adding cement. That's like a disaster because it just keeps flooding and flooding. There's nowhere for that water to go. And the way it's even designed, that could, to me, can cause more of an accident than anything with all that sidewalk and cement coming out. I'm just really disturbed by it because I have elderly parents in wheelchairs and not in such good shape anymore. And God forbid there's a real emergency, it'll be a big disaster.
So,
Thank you so much.
so thank you, Marilyn. I just want to be mindful of time. Thank you for that. I'm trying to unmute Margaret since she's also on the committee. Margaret, can you, are you getting a alert to unmute? If you hit *6, it should unmute you. There you go.
Okay. I am in agreement with the residents of 2727 Palisade Avenue. I agree with Dan and Rosemary. It should be returned to its original format.
Okay,
And,
that all you wanted to say, or is there more?
Yes, no. I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you, Margaret. And don't go too far because we'll start to, the committee will discuss next steps. Mary, you've already spoken, so I'm gonna kind of cut you off and just grab Ethan. You'll be the last person to speak. I feel like Mary, you're got a lot of support from other folks, so hope that's okay. Ethan, what's your comment? What would you like to add?
Hi, thank you. My name is Ethan Strell. I'm a resident at 2727 Palisade. I'm also on the board of directors of 2727 Palisade. First, I wanted to thank you, Deborah, for your informative presentation on the Deegan. It was very interesting. And one thing I noted during the presentation is that the stormwater maps and the flooding maps, even projecting out into the future with climate change, don't show our intersection in a flood zone. So clearly there's something going on here. And the biggest change that has happened is this sidewalk project. And I will say that, you know, I am generally in favor of pedestrian safety enhancements. And I'm not particularly opposed to what was done. However, the design and execution of it clearly were very flawed. And the suggestions to rip it out and bring it back to how it was, I'm not sure is going to solve the problem, because the intersection as it was before was kind of a ridiculous intersection. It's a huge expanse of concrete.
Oh, God.
And it is now paved over with bumped up sidewalks, you know, using a very carbon intensive material and concrete to build up the sidewalks. But the street grade was also changed. So now that the hill that comes off Capoc and ends at Palisade, the water flows directly towards our building entrance, and there are no storm drains there. So I'm not an engineer, but this clearly needs to be re-engineered. My personal feeling is that there should be a lot more green space built into this, and green infrastructure, which, as we noted in the letter from the board of directors to DOT, copying the community board and all the elected officials, is a policy of another city agency to install green infrastructure. So clearly this should be a more comprehensively engineered plan. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ethan. So I want to just bring it back to the committee, just for any, well, I guess I will bring it back to DOT if there's any last comments they would like to say, and then I'll bring it back to the committee if there's any last things we would like to do. Darissa, is there anything you'd like to say, or have you said what you wanted to say?
Yeah, I've said what I wanted to say, but I will take all of what I've heard tonight back to our borough commissioner.
Great, thank you. So I just want to turn to the committee for a moment, because I know that this issue has been one that's come before the committee off and on, and that mostly has been a lot of work has been done by the work group. And so I want to thank the working group for everything that they've done in terms of advocating and trying to clarify what it was that they were seeking. I will say that, like, as a person coming into this, who wasn't involved in 2019 with the initial discussion, I think that the stormwater runoff is just really striking, and that as we just heard with the Deegan conversation, a lot of water fell in July and then again September 1st. And so I think that that everybody's entitled to their opinion about why, and whether this was something that DEP could have planned for a 7-inch storm back in 2019 when they were designing this intersection. But that I agree with Ethan that when I went and did a site visit and then compared it to some of the earlier pictures that Dan showed, and then earlier pictures just on Google Maps, that it does seem clear that the grade of the street was changed, that the catch basin placement doesn't really work anymore for these kind of very severe storms. And I think that that's what I wanted to talk about with the committee, that as far as a follow-up, I think that it would be really important. I know that the DOT is going to kind of review, but I would like to put a letter together to kind of just really emphasize the need to immediately respond to the stormwater runoff, because we're still in hurricane season. and that the curbs are very, very low. Like the curbing that is directly in front of 2727 Cape Rock is only a few inches high, and a few inches kind of just exaggerates. It's like maybe an inch and a half. It's very deteriorated. Catch basins, whatever they need to do to talk to DEP. I would like to send a letter that would really, really focus on that, because that's like the really immediate need. And that if that could be fixed, then at the end of the day, you have a street that doesn't flood, a pedestrian crossing that is safer, and then we can get more green space and gardens or benches on the sidewalk. So that's what I want to put out there. David, I see that your hand is up.
Can I just say something? I
who's
thought
speaking? Karen?
Karen.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to go on to the business of the meeting. I mean,
we are. I just
if
wanted
we're going
to
to have a big discussion now about what's going to happen here.
So Karen,
it's
I just
almost
wanna,
9 o'clock.
I know. I just want to talk to my committee about this, and then we'll be done. I just want to just clarify next steps. I know David has opinions about it. I just want to check in with Ed and Margaret while everybody's on the call. So then we'll be wrapped up, and we'll move over to the ENS agenda items. So just give me like 5 minutes at most. David.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I agree with my neighbor, Ethan. I live right next door. The issue of safety, I think, was paramount to this change. We have to realize two factors that may not be apparent to people who don't live here at this intersection. That lobby is about 15 feet below grade and of the street, and there are 4 stories of residences below that. So that no matter what, on September 1st, all that water running downhill, even if there was a good curb, still would have run over the driveways, the 2 driveways to that building, and still would have inundated the lobby. So what I think a practical solution might be here is, agreeing with the others, particularly Ethan on that, is I think, and I've said this from the start, we should green the hell out of those 2 corners. And if we can make them into bioswales to suck off water and bring them into drainage earlier, I think that would be better. And it is possible that there'd be value in adding another catch basin or 2 at that curb line. I think that might help. But fundamentally, the intent of DOT at the start was to shorten the corners of those intersections, and they have been shortened by at least 40 to 50%. And that's a principle that I think that DOT should stick to. We should just figure out how to make the drainage work better in that setting. Thank you.
They removed the sewers.
There are no catch basins.
There are 3 catch basins there.
Deb, we can't see you. We can't hear you. Deb.
I just want to remind everybody it's getting late, and so we're just doing a wrap up of kind of what where the committee stands on the next steps with the committee. The work of the people at 2727, there are elected officials on this call. They are also in touch with the elected officials, and they've also been in touch with DOT and the citywide DOT. So they'll continue to advocate with the board office on solutions and such. I just want to talk to the committee about anything that we would like to do specifically, if there's anything. Ed.
Yeah, some of the things that Dan and Rosemary said were just pretty convincing to me, and just hearing the voices of all the people that were affected by this, and just the fact that they had the foresight to see this was going to happen previously, yet their opinion was ignored by DOT. I'm kind of the opinion if something's not broken, you don't fix it, and they were warned, and here we have a problem. So I have to agree with the residents on this, that things should be restored to the way they previously were. That's it.
So Ed, I think the challenge is that it was 100-foot, like in my mind at least, it was 100-foot intersection that was all concrete, or was all blacktop, and then there's concrete. So it was never permeable to begin with. It seems that really it's about the direction of the water and the angle of the street, and that if we can get that right and we can get the curb in place, we can get catch basins in place, that's a solution that DEP would be willing to look into, especially since we're really talking about stormwater runoff. It opens up an angle of attack to really address this without kind of relitigating whether the curb is the right solution. That's what I was thinking of, why it would be good to approach that as the committee, of like sending a letter to say this is really what we want done immediately, because the water, any future stormwater event might flood their lobby until the grade of the street, whatever has to happen with the catch basins, whatever has to happen with the curbing, but to keep that water in the street. Like that would be a good 90% solution plus green solutions.
Yeah. So Deb, I lived there since 1971.
I'm sorry, Renee. Yeah.
And
sorry,
I've never, ever, ever seen that street flood like it did into 27. It's definitely because of that coverage. And I'd be willing and I'd be willing to be on another committee to help, fix this. I mean, it has to be fixed. These poor people. If I had to live like that, I think I would lose my mind.
Yeah, I don't think
it has never been like that ever before. Never. And we had like climate change. We had snow up the yin yangs back in the day with all that flooding with that. We had really bad hurricanes back then. Never have those streets or buildings ever flooded. Because even 2621 Palisade Avenue, the garages are all the way down. Never, ever do we ever have problems with flooding in those buildings.
Right, but we haven't had the Deegan under 5 feet of water.
Right,
either.
exactly.
It was
That's
a substantial. It was a substantial
We're adding too
storm.
much concrete to everything. They redesigned the Deegan, so I'm sure that I had to add to it. You're widening it, adding more cement, more. I forget what they put on the ground for highways, but you added much more of that. You widened it. And there's nowhere for this water to go. So I've never I was a young kid, 71. I've never seen what I've seen from that video just now. Awful, god awful. And I hope we can have a committee or something to really work on that corner. It's dangerous. Some kid could have been crossing the street. Suppose this was the daytime and you had kids crossing the street like that. People could have really got hurt.
Well, I mean, to be clear, the water you're saying crossing the street during the water? I'm not sure
The water coming down and flooding everything there, people crossing and everything. That could have been a real big disaster for people.
Yeah, I don't. It was the middle of a storm. Yeah.
We could have people killed in that building. Drowning, you know what I mean?
So I want to be mindful of time since it's 9 o'clock, and I know that we still have actually quite a bit of work to do. So does anybody on the committee, is there any letter that you want us to, do we have any consensus on what we would like to say in a letter? Or do we want to just move this forward, table this for tonight, and then kind of have a discussion in October once we see what DOT comes back to, just kind of continue to stay in touch with them?
Sounds good.
David, Ed?
I would like to recommend that DOT remove what they've done and restore it back to its previous state.
I'm not really I'm not entirely convinced that it makes sense to ask them to do something that is where the answer is no. I would like them to focus on the stormwater. Would you like to, say you want them to focus on the removal of the curb over the stormwater? Because I mean, keep in mind that whatever we ask for, that's the request that will be considered. So if you know what I'm saying?
Deb?
Is this Margaret?
Yes.
Yes, please speak.
Okay. I think we should send a letter now asking for it to be restored, because DOT will go to their own drum. And how long will it take to come up with a solution that they and the tenants and the community believe is viable and could really work?
But when has that ever happened? I think when would they ever remove a curb, particularly a safety feature that we know is going to make that takes 100-foot intersection and makes it narrower? When would they remove that instead of just simply fixing the problem that we have in front of them, which is the water? I think we can agree that the water is the issue, right?
I have an
Right.
answer for that, Deb. You asked when would they remove it? They'd remove it when they realized they made a colossal mistake and caused a flood in somebody's
Right.
lot.
Okay.
Exactly. That's
No,
how I feel,
absolutely.
Deb.
Uh-huh,
It
okay.
needs to go.
All right, well, so what I'll do is I'll draft a letter. It's late. I'll draft a letter and I will circulate it to the committee to review, and then we can go from there.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I agree.
Okay, very good. I got consent on that. So then I think we can then move.
What is the letter going to say? We come to any consensus on that?
I think that the letter, well, I've got to think about
Wait
it.
a minute,
It's-
wait a minute,
it-
wait a minute, wait a
the-
minute.
Yeah,
Why
no, I
don't
know,
you do the
exactly.
letter?
Let me draft the letter. I've heard what you're saying. I'll draft the letter and then we can, if you don't like it, we can come back in the October meeting and you can fix it. But I hear what you're saying. What I think I'm hearing on the consensus of the committee is that you would like to have us advocate for the removal of the curbing, which I think is a mistake, because I think that frankly, the problem is the
Well,
stormwater runoff.
yours is only
And
one
so
opinion.
please just stop, Renee, please. I'm just saying it is my one opinion, but I just, in terms of what to advocate for, I think that if we emphasize too heavily the removal of the curb over the emphasizing the stormwater, I think what I could do is put together a letter that combines them both so that we don't lose the focus on the stormwater, because I think that's the part that's really been so devastating to this building, is all of this water in the lobby twice, right? But both of those times are over stormwater. It's substantial. It wasn't just a rainstorm, it was a substantial rainstorm. So let me
Yeah, but
draft
Deb, it wasn't
something.
there before and it's there now and it's causing this. It needs to go.
Mhm. So that's what I mean. Like, let me draft something, because I don't have anything prepared. And it is 9 o'clock and we do need to do some other things. So are you comfortable with me drafting it, or do you want to just put it over to the next, I can put it over to the next meeting, but I sense a sense of
Maybe
urgency.
that's another month in case something happens, so.
Yeah, I think it's
Exactly.
worth drafting a letter so we have something to focus on
Yeah.
rather than a couple of random statements trying to be knit together by committee over Zoom. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea to draft an initial letter, circulate it amongst us, and then we can talk about it during the month or at next month's meeting.
Okay, does that make sense? So if it's too contentious, we'll push it to the meeting, but I think that we can find some consensus just by drafting a letter.
There's a
Okay.
special committee too.
So next up is environment and sanitation agenda items. So we do have to align on one. We had one of fiscal year 23 capital priority that we shared with environment and sanitation, which is the Goulden Avenue.
Wait. Let me start from the beginning, okay?
Okay.
Before we get into anything. So, because we have minutes. Have the members of the committee read the minutes, and can we approve them?
Yes, and yes.
Bob? Is he talking?
Yeah,
Oh. Is it okay with you?
yes, it's okay with me.
Okay, so if you look at the minutes, in there are budget items. And so just let me do this quickly. So basically those budget items were circulated. We discussed them last month. No, June, we discussed them. And now those budget items just have to be reworded a little bit. We can circulate them. We can tweak them. Deb and I can tweak them and send them out to the committee. But basically it's the same issues. I can read them if you like quickly. So we have the daylighting at Tibbetts Brook. We want to add flooding on there. We have Dickinson Avenue realignment, which Deb has the good words. It's not on my sheet here, but it pretty much says the same thing. And we have a bunch of things on the expense budget. We have clean streets, upgrade maintenance on Jerome Park Reservoir, enforcement agents around the reservoir, Metro North Station at Stighton Dival, asbestos and noise complaint enforcement, install right-of-way green infrastructure along Broadway and in other parts of Kingsbridge Heights, restore e-cycling program in the community, And we have two things, restore a curbside organic recycling, which I think we have, so I don't know why we need that. And also to fund the New York City compost project. The only thing I could suggest is that we take those two and say to up to pre-pandemic level, if everybody wants to keep that on. Does everybody agree with that?
Fine with
Yeah,
me.
then
Yeah, there's just the one
Well,
change, right? I think that's
the-
fine.
just the one change on the alignment, okay? And
Karen,
then,
just the e-cycle has resumed pickups.
it has?
Yeah. And I believe they are currently, a lot of this was recent budget restorations. So
Okay.
maybe phrasing it in a more continue to fund, you know, like in a, so that doesn't get cut again.
Okay. Okay, and also, maybe we put in the same as pre-pandemic, so that we get it back to the normal level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Please
pre-pandemic, okay.
realize that the budget items were considered, reviewed, and prioritized by the executive committee in May, and then discussed again last week. So I hope that whatever changes you make fit pretty neatly into the things that were submitted in April.
Thank you, David. We'll take care of that.
Yeah.
And then the other
Terrific,
thing
thank
I'd like to say is, we have the announcement about the curbside composting has started, and people need to call or sign up through 311 to get pickups. It's just not going to happen automatically. And what is this? Okay, and then I do want to give a little talk about a NYSERDA project that's coming into our area. So since 2014, the Public Service Commission has been working on renewable energy for private companies. And they came up with an idea and asked the New York State Energy Research and Development Agency to be the lead agency on environmental review, and also to put out a bid to these companies or new companies to provide green, clean energy to the state. And in particular, New York City has something that's called Tier 4. Tier 4 is, they put the bids out to these private companies. They're going to award a $1.6 billion contract to one of these people, which only takes care of a partial amount of the goal. The goal is 70% clean and green energy by 2030. So they're only doing 15% of that 70%. And so we don't know what's going to happen. But the reason why it's important now is that one of the 7 people who have bid on this, the bids are going to be announced shortly. One of the 7 is reportedly looking at putting it in Van Cortlandt Park along the Major Deegan Expressway. And we just want to bring it to everybody's attention. We're not happy with that going to a private company to make money. We're not happy. I'm not personally happy about the money going to these private companies. But in any event, we just don't want another thing going into Van Cortlandt Park. If people have questions about that, I sent the notice with a link to the community board office, and they can email it to you. And I think that's pretty much it. Any questions?
Dan, your hands up from previous. Okay, just making sure. Rosemary, your hands up from before.
Yes, Karen, yeah, up from before, but since Karen invites a question on this subject, I'll be glad to speak up now. Karen, You mentioned Van Cortlandt Park, obviously something of major concern to this community and to the Parks Committee. It appears to me in my brief conversation with Bob Finuzzi, there's nobody to invite to a committee meeting that can explain this from beginning to end. Or am I wrong? Is there somebody that can come to a committee meeting and explain this issue from the beginning?
So there's two problems with it. One is that the decision that NYSERDA is going to make is going to be in what they call the third quarter, which I think is now. And so any day they could make a decision. And then we're stuck with whoever this bid. I mean, I pretty much have an idea of who the person, which entity is doing that, because there's one entity that is doing hydropower. They're coming from Canada. There's another entity that was doing electric power, and they wanted to put this what is it called? It's a converter on top of the parking lot at the Gateway Mall. The congressman got involved and everybody yelled and screamed, and so they moved it. They're going to move it someplace else. We don't think that they're going to the Major Deegan at Van Cortlandt Park. The one who's coming down the thruway, there's a project that coming straight down the thruway that all the water people like because it's not going in the water. And that one is the one that's going to pass Van Cortlandt Park in the thruway. And so they probably think it's a good place to take care of it because other places will cost them too much money. It's big. This is not something small. And it's, you know, think about what's along the thruway, you know, the Major Deegan in Van Cortlandt Park. And it's just, you know, a beautiful forest. And, you know, and we have enough.
Again, so is NYSERDA, who's the lead on this? NYSERDA?
NYSERDA is the lead, and we're trying to find out who the person is there, but you could certainly get somebody from that company, which is called Excelsius. And if you contact them, you see, you can't read the documents that's online because they're redacted. Okay. There's all these black lines through almost every page. I mean, there's nothing.
You are so, I know you're well versed in all these issues. I'm begging to know who the hell can be brought to the Parks Committee to explain this to the public. That's so it's NYSERDA, yes? No.
It would be NYSERDA. No, NYSERDA didn't. So my complaint is NYSERDA did the EIS. They did a draft generic EIS. And they didn't look at the siting. And so the generic thing they just approved, and they're leaving these private companies to decide where they're going to site these things. And I find that how are you going to choose to give somebody $1.6 billion and not know, and give up the whole area of the siting, so that if they choose Excelsius, then they will come back and they'll have to do an environmental impact statement, and then they'll talk to us. So at this point, the only person you can speak to is NYSERDA.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
And we have all the names up on that chart.
Okay.
Okay.
We could talk offline.
Anything else, Karen, on your agenda items?
No, I think I covered them all.
Okay. For my committee, I sent out the April and June minutes because I noticed that oh wait, Rob's hand is up. Rob, did you have a question for Karen?
Yeah. Isn't it, this is a state agency, so shouldn't we be talking to Senator Biaggi and Assemblyman Dinowitz?
Well, we are talking to Assemblyman Dinowitz about it, and we're trying to organize how we make presentation, you know, to get the point across. I mean, obviously, it's easy to make the one point that we don't want this in Van Cortlandt Park. It doesn't matter what you say. You could come and you could talk to us about it all you want. There's enough things in Van Cortlandt, and I can make a list of all the things that are in Van Cortlandt Park that don't belong there. And many of us can do that too. And so, I mean, that's like, it's clear. But yes, we are talking to the state electeds.
Yeah, just to add, our Albany office is working with NYSERDA. I can circle back. I think they might be talking to Karen directly, but I'll circle back, make sure.
No, they never spoke to us. We didn't get back to them yet.
Okay, we'll talk offline.
Okay, thanks, Frederick.
Thank you.
Okay, great. And then I just back to my committee, I circulated the April and June minutes. There was one change to the June minute. There was a vote on the Greystone resolution where I was the minutes said that I voted against it. I wasn't on the call at that time. I think it was just an error. That's the only change I have to make. Is there any other changes that anybody else would like to make? Yeah, Margaret. You're breaking up. I can't hear you. Margaret? Are you there? Oh, there you are. Were you saying something about the minutes?
I think she doesn't know she's unmuted.
Oh, okay. So is there any opposition to approving the minutes? Okay. And then as far as the chair's report goes, so the April and June minutes are approved with the one modification. So chair's report, I just had a few announcements from the summer. I just wanted to share to kind of catch us all up on the various announcements from the various agencies. So the creation of the sidewalk on the north side of West 254th. That's something that's been one of our capital priorities for a long time. That was funded. So the DOT will be kicking off community outreach and design later in the fall or early next year. So they'll be working very closely with the community on that. And we'll be following up with them on that. The other good news on the capital funding front was a Summit Place. That Step Street has also been on our capital priorities list, and it's on Summit Place between Heath Avenue and Bailey Avenue. That rehabilitation of that Step Street has also been funded. So also really, really wonderful news. I know there's some folks who've been working really hard on that. And then in July, the MTA welcomed the expansion of the 311 system into the subway. So you may not have noticed this, but you can now use the MTA app to report non-criminal issues, such as a person in need of mental health assistance without calling 911. So it's the biggest expansion of the 311 system since its inception, and it should help a lot of folks get help when they need it. August 16th, the MTA announced that they were going to be improving bus service. And so that the bus expansion plan that they had talked about before, the bus redesign plan that they talked before, prior to COVID, some of that stuff is coming back. So the MTA is adding 300 cameras on board buses next year. And the city will simultaneously expand bus lane camera enforcement, covering 85% of all bus lanes by the end of 2023. The city to add or improve 20 miles of bus lanes, including up to 5 new busway pilots starting in 2022. Transit signal priority is expanding to up to 750 additional intersections. OMNY, all door boarding, coming to 10 local bus routes as a pilot program. The MTA bus network redesign to restart this fall. That was the pre-COVID piece that this committee was very involved in, and I'm sure everybody, lots of folks on this call were involved with. Beginning with the resumption of the Bronx local bus redesign targeting implementation for the summer of 2022. MTA and the city to improve real-time information for bus riders. So if you want to get into the details of the nitty-gritty of exactly what the changes are, you can just Google MTA bus network redesign and it will come right up, and you can dig into any of these different issues. I just New York City street plan public workshops. They started in July. The New York City Department of Transportation has to put together a plan for making our streets safer, a comprehensive plan in response to local law 195. So they have to have a 5-year plan, and they're in the process of getting community input. Round 2 of the virtual public workshops will be in September and October, and then the final plan will be released in December of 2021. So if you haven't already participated in the July ones, or even if you have, keep a lookout for the September and October ones. Somebody have a question? Making sure. And then finally, paving, just the one exciting piece of paving news from the summer was that DOT has agreed to pave Dickinson Avenue between Van Cortlandt Park and Sedgwick. So I just thought that was very exciting. So I'm all in favor. As far as old business, on our June call, we had a conversation about Sedgwick Avenue and kind of safety improvements. There was a Sedgwick Avenue letter that we were going to put together. That one I will draft, and we can discuss it at our next call, just to make sure that we're all on the same page and got it all put together. This meeting was just a little bit too busy to bring that in. And then let's see. So I got some hands here. Rob Spalter, are you so I'm under old business right now. Is there any old business? And David, do you have old business you would like to raise? You're muted.
No, it was just a comment earlier in the meeting, but whenever you have a moment.
Okay. And then
I just wanted to add to what you said about the MTA. They have cameras now in all 472 stations now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I saw Laura told somebody about it today, so that's why I was aware.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
All right, cool. Thank you for sharing. So David, your hand is down, right?
No, just for Karen, the changes you want to make. Kira's done some very good work early in the summer trying to combine a number of budget items. Give her a call about your changes and see how you might be able to, you and her can figure out a way to merge them into the ones that were submitted in the spring. Okay?
Good idea. Thank you, David.
You bet.
And also just, I don't know if it was clear when Karen was talking about it because it went by pretty quickly, but we merged, we had Dickinson, realigning and reconstructing Dickinson Avenue was two separate items. One was a TNT item and one was an environment and sanitation item. So we did merge those. So it's just one, so that way it's just taking up the one space. And just so that everybody knows what it says realign and reconstruct the intersection of Dickinson Avenue, an unmapped DEP-owned street, to Goulden Avenue at Sedgwick to create one safe intersection for pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists. That's nice and simple. Let's see. So is there any new business? I see ST, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, hi. Hi, I'm
What's your
Donna.
name?
Donna Toplitsky. I have a quick question. Can you go, you very briefly went over the 254th Street sidewalk.
Oh, yeah.
Can you just share what funded means?
Oh, so, excuse me.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, David can speak to the budget a little bit better than I, but essentially what it means is that every year the city kind of figures out what it will spend its capital funding on. And so this, the committee, the Traffic and Transportation Committee, and then the community board as a whole make recommendations in terms of priorities for every community board about projects that we think need to be done. And it takes many, many years usually or often for those projects to kind of work their way to the top of the list, and they get kind of reassessed against each other each year. So that particular project has been requested. It's a capital item that's been requested for many, many years by people who use 254th Street, particularly at night, to get to the MTA station. And so what funding simply means is that they have a rough idea of how much it would cost, and that money has been allocated. The work itself generally takes place over several years, with generally like a 14 month on average. Oh, I'm sorry, Margaret, I didn't mean to mute you. Like a 14-month design period, and then a kind of a roughly equivalent procurement period, and then a roughly equivalent building period. That makes sense. Does that clarify?
Yeah, helpful. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, totally. And then SJ.
Hi, thanks. Actually, a related question on the sidewalk. You mentioned the community outreach that would happen later in the fall and maybe early next year.
Mm-hmm.
What form does that take? What should I expect to see, or how can I participate?
So I think that, is NYC DOT still on the call, Larissa? Let me look and see. Did she hop off? Or the commissioner? Neither of them are on the call. So I can't speak to specifically what they're planning, but normally what it would mean is that they would reach out to the board and let the board know, and that they often will reach out directly to homeowners in particular for a sidewalk to let them know, and that that they would have some kind of Zoom call or some sort of in-person meeting to get feedback, to present kind of high level concepts of like what they're planning, and just to really to explain how the whole process works. And so that's my understanding of what it will be. If you want, you can also, if you want to email the board office directly, we can then respond directly to you, and by asking DOT directly. You know, I'm taking a kind of a broad approach, but we can find out directly from either Jerissa or from the commissioner. And I see the assemblyman's hand is up. Miss Jeffrey, did you want to speak?
Very briefly, and you may have covered this already. I apologize. I was at other meetings and I'm very late. Sorry about that. But my staff person is here, Ned. We were promised earlier in the year that the east service road of the Henry Hudson Parkway would be milled and repaved, just like the west side was. And we were told it would be done by August. Now, Mr. Keith Kalb of DOT is saying it'll be done in the fall. Well, that gives them until December 20th. So they could actually be as much as 4 months later than promised under this new promise. So I just wanted to point that out because the East Service Road is really very bad. And it should have been done, I think it should have been done before the west side, but it's not been done. So I just wanted to put that on your radar that they have, well, I'll just say they haven't lived up to their commitment to get it done by August.
That's helpful. Yeah, what are the cross streets from where to where?
I believe they were supposed to do it from 232nd up until the monument, 239th. The condition of the service road, the northbound service road in that area is horrendous. Not to mention the fact that in a large area of it, I guess I would call it curbing on the west side of the service road, meaning closer to the highway, is not there anymore. Like if you go past the Parkway House and the Algiers, and even below that, and as a result, you have these little mudslides because there's from the highway to the service road, there's a slight decline. So this has really been a problem for many years. And for whatever reason, they have not lived up to their the schedule that they led us to believe they would. So earlier in the summer, or even in the spring, when people asked me, I said, well, DOT told us they're going to get it done by the end of August. And I also cautioned them by saying, but DOT told us. But I was hopeful that they would get it done. And in fact, no.
Okay, that's good to know. We can follow up. Thank you. Mary Ellen?
Hi, thanks, Jeff. You remind me on that paving milling. Outside of Atria's garage, part of that to repair that service road, there's like it's gotten so bad, that area, that there's like two holes right outside. If one of the seniors step off that curb getting into one of their family's cars or something over there, there's like holes, literally gaping holes that are, it's on the fall apart there.
What are the streets, Mary Ellen? Do you know?
It's in front of Atria Garage, where the garage goes in.
Right. But what's the?
I'm sorry, like 237th Street, Henry Hudson Parkway.
237. So it's on the Parkway, or it's on 237?
On the service road.
Okay.
The Assemblyman's right. It's the whole stretch from 232 to the bell tower.
Can I finish?
Is
Can I
far
finish,
worse
David,
than
I'm not finished
everything
yet.
else.
David, I'm not finished yet.
Oh, is there something else, Marianne?
Thank you. Yes. 237th Street and Johnson Avenue. Maybe they need to revisit how that is set up, because like I'm 62 walking across that thing. It's a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, all the cars.
You're talking about you're talking about pedestrian access?
Yes, it could be a really bad, because the cars come at you in every which direction. And I can't even see like the seniors coming out of there to go across to go shopping or go to the bank or something. It's real hell to walk across that street. And the last one is 239th Street on the east side of Henry Hudson Parkway, the service road over there. Crossing that street, one of my clients' two of the family members were crossing there. And I've seen it myself. There's like cars coming in every which direction. And the car coming from the right is watching the car coming from the service road. And they don't see the pedestrian because they're so busy looking every which direction that they nearly got hit by the cars and they actually fell. They got so thrown off walking across there. And maybe they need to look at that design also. It's like by the monument where it crisscrosses everything over there.
Okay, so I'll put those two on a list for like a future meeting to talk
Yeah.
about the intersections. And then Henry Hudson Parkway and 237, that's just a
It's
pure
right in
paving
front of
issue.
Atria where the garage, where you would come out of the garage, there's a garage there.
Okay,
As soon as you step off that curb, there are holes. I mean, some senior's gonna step in the hole. Oh, maybe if one of their residents dropped them off right there.
have you submitted a 311 report yet?
I'm not sure if they did or not. I thought
Have
like coming
them-
up a new business when I saw it there.
Yeah, no, totally, that's all good. I mean, have them submit 311 reports.
Sure.
So the DOT can follow up with potholes.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. No, thank you for raising it. Vittorio,
Yeah, I want to speak
Oh.
just briefly about Henry Hudson Parkway East because the advocacy group that I run has been asking about this a lot. We have a lot of commuters that take the express buses down there, and all the craters oftentimes bats up traffic because if a bus gets stuck there in a pothole or something, the whole service road can't function. So aside from that, we've been having flooding issues every time that it rains, which is supposedly related to the fact that the paving has not taken place. The
Okay.
flooding is by West 236 and Henry Hudson Parkway East.
okay,
So hopefully this can be done sooner rather than later.
okay, got it. Duly noted. And then, I'm sorry, Abe Sakti, I skipped you. I'm sorry about that. It's your turn.
Yeah, no worries. First of all, congratulations on chairing your first meeting. It was awesome.
Thank you.
But I just wanted to second SJ's comment regarding 254th Street. I am a homeowner there, and I think hearing the horror stories from 2727 Palisade Avenue, I just want to make sure that we're learning the lessons of how to deal with not just the DOT, but the alphabet soup of governmental agencies to make sure they're actually speaking to each other. And I think you guys did everything right in terms of creating a subcommittee, and I would very much like to be part of that, even if the resolution wasn't what the residents, would have liked. But, so I guess it's more of a comment than anything else, but just kind of want to make sure that we're actively learning the lessons so that we don't repeat it here.
Okay, thank you. No, I appreciate that. And then also, if you want to just communicate with the board, I mean, all of the residents around on 254th Street will be contacted, but certainly send your information to the board so we can make sure you're in the loop. And then, council member, would you like to have the last word this evening?
Oh, wow. What an honor. First of all, Deb, I said at the beginning of the meeting, you do great. And I am proud to say that I was right. Congratulations.
Thank you. I will not fight with you. We get really great.
Just two things I want to bring up. You brought up the awful incident that happened last week where Ruth was hit and killed by a bus. So you may have seen Assemblyman Dinowitz and I immediately had a press I immediately called for a lighting and traffic study in the area. We followed up with a press conference, and this morning he and I met with the borough commissioner to discuss solutions and importantly how quickly they can be done for this area. It is an area I know that has been complained about over the years, with especially cars speeding down that hill, not stopping at the stop sign. So we spoke about a number of solutions, both short-term and long-term, but importantly, how quickly they can happen. You also spoke in your meeting about the Deegan Expressway. I want you and everyone here to know that we spoke about the sewers, the combined sewage overflow, and one of the issues there could be the daylighting of Tibbetts Brook, which I don't know if that was mentioned during the meeting, but those 4 to 5 million gallons of water every day that's being dumped into our sewer system. Those are 4 or 5 million gallons of fresh water that don't need to go in there. And during a storm, take up the space in our sewer system. And so this has been a priority of mine since I was sworn into office. So that is something that I, and of course, Karen and Bob and a number of BCQ and people on ENS are tackling, but it is something that is a priority of mine. So those are kind of 2 immediate issues that I've been kind of taken on.
Great, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I don't see, Karen, are you still on the call? She may have had to drop off. Well, thank you so much for, yeah, no, I appreciate that. And then we'll be continuing to talk about the Deegan, I think, at the next Environment and Sanitation Committee meeting. That's what I was going to add and confirm with Karen, since she's the chair tonight.
Good. And just one other thing, I want to make sure everyone knows Enzo Manzano, or as he's listed on the participants, Lorenzo Manzano is one of my constituent advocates. He's on the call, and you can always reach out to him. If people in CB8 are reaching out to my office for issues, you will probably speak to him. The one suggestion we give everyone, whether it's about environment, traffic, sanitation, whatever, call 311 first and have a number that we can follow up with, because the agencies will often ask, what is the 311 complaint number? So call 311 first, get the complaint number, and we can follow up. And last thing I will mention, but it was already mentioned, but I just want to be very, very clear on something, is composting is back. Even if your building had composting in the past, this is the number one confusion we've had, you have to sign up again. Even if, buildings will say, oh, I have the brown bins, I'm good. You're not good. You got to sign up again. It is starting back up in October, but signups are on a rolling basis. So if you sign up this month, I think it'll start for you in November or so. But I encourage everyone to sign up or get their buildings to sign up. Right. Very good. Well, there's a cause very close to my heart, and so thank you for saying that. It's a good way to end. If there's no objections, Oh wait, Mary Ellen, do you have something you'd like to add as new business?
Yes. I just want to ask Eric, how do they sign up? Because I know of a lot of people that have the bins.
We've been sending out in most of our emails the link to sign up. We've hosted a few events to sign up, but it's online. And it wouldn't be the individual, it would be like the board or the managing agent or the landlord that signs up, unless your building's very, very small or you live in a house. But the sign up is online. We're going to be continuing to host events throughout the year. I'm going to continue to send the information out on my email when I'm able to do that. But you can always reach out to my office if you're not sure. Email it's dinowitz@council.nyc.gov. dinowitz@council.nyc.gov, and we can send you the link directly.
Very good, thank you.
Right, great. Thank you. And on that, is there anybody, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, so moved.
Seconded.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for hanging into the very end, and have a good, safe night.
Great job, Deb.
Great job.
Thanks.
Great
Thanks,
first
Ed.
meeting. Yay.
Hey, made it through.
Nice job, Eric, coming out of the chute.
Good night.
Good night. Night, John.